Chapter 864. Another scam. Kong Xiaobo was about to refuse, but Lin Yi spoke first. 300,000, Xiaobo, take it. Since it's your cousin's goodwill, there's no reason for you to refuse. Lin Yi stood up and took the money box in front of Kong Mingming. Kong Mingming was overjoyed. This Lin Yi wasn't that annoying after all. He didn't come here to eat and drink for free. He was very useful at the crucial moment. He's greedy, but that's good. I like greedy people. With Lin Yi by Kong Xiaobo's side, things will be much smoother. Yeah, the Lin brothers are right. There's no reason to refuse such a large sum of money. Kong Mingming agreed with a smile. He didn't say the last part of the sentence, which was that he was taking someone's money to get rid of a disaster for them. Kong Xiaobo was stunned by Lin Yi's action. Why was Lin Yi asking him to take the money? Wasn't that the same as giving the prescription to Kong Mingming? He looked at Lin Yi with uncertainty. He wanted to ask what was going on, but he was afraid that Lin Yi's plan would be ruined by him. Xiaobo, isn't it just a prescription? As the vice president of the company, you should have access to these core secrets. Why don't you just give the prescription to your cousin? Lin Yi gave Kong Xiaobo a look and continued. As for the source of the raw materials, I'm afraid it's not that easy to find out. But try your best. Yeah. Let's get the prescription first. Kong Mingming didn't insist. As long as he got something first, he would have the evidence of Kong Xiaobo accepting bribes. Then he could get any information he wanted. The prescription, of course. Lin Yi patted his chest and promised, right, Xiaobo? This, yes. Kong Xiaobo saw that Lin Yi had already agreed. How could he refuse? Although he didn't know what Lin Yi wanted, he could only cooperate with Lin Yi. Kong Mingming didn't expect to achieve his goal so easily. He was elated. During dinner, he didn't talk much with Kong Xiaobo. He agreed that if Kong Xiaobo succeeded, he would call him directly. Kong Mingming and the others left the restaurant. Kong Xiaobo, who was carrying a box of money, was still confused. Boss, what's the meaning of this? They want the prescription. Do we give it to them? Of course we have to. Otherwise, they would have wasted 300,000. Lin Yi smiled, but you don't have to steal it. I'll write one for you. As he spoke, Lin Yi took out the flyer he got from the restaurant and wrote a prescription for Kong Xiaobo in the blank space. I'll give it to you. Just call Kong Mingming when the time comes. This is the real prescription. Kong Xiaobo was in disbelief. He knew a little about Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. He heard that the prescription was different from Dr. Kang's. Not only did it lower the cost, but it was also more effective than Dr. Kang's. Lin Yi gave the prescription to Kong Mingming. Didn't that mean he was giving away the benefits to others? Of course it's the real prescription. Lin Yi nodded, but he smiled. But this prescription is Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine. Didn't he suspect that you know their prescription? That's perfect. We'll just use this prescription to fool them. Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine prescription? Boss, how do you have it? Kong Xiaobo was shocked. I've seen Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine before. It should be this old prescription. But a lot of the ingredients are expensive. The cost is too high, so I changed some of them. Not only did I save on the cost, but the effect was also stronger. Lin Yi shrugged. Now we're just returning the old prescription to them. They already have a prescription for 300,000. Isn't that worth it? That's a good deal. Kong Xiaobo finally understood Lin Yi's intention. Boss, you're the best. You just casually scammed another 300,000 from Kong Mingming. That's so satisfying. Kong Xiaobo hated Kong Mingming. It wasn't just a day. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, he wouldn't have sat at the same table with Kong Mingming. He had been wondering why Lin Yi did this. Now he knew that Kong Ming was scammed by Lin Yi again. I wasn't planning on screwing him over. I just wanted to see what he was up to. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. But since he's giving us 300,000, there's no reason for us to reject it. That's true. I was scared to death. I thought he sold the prescription for 300,000. My heart almost exploded. Kong Xiaobo let out a sigh of relief. Boss, I'll give you the money. I'm going to the slums to pick up Xiaofin and bring her to the company. Recently, Kong Xiaobo went to the company to learn from Fatty Lai and Fatty Lai's friends. Although Kong Xiaobo had learned a lot of theoretical knowledge, it was just an armchair strategist without any practical application. So, Kong Xiaobo treasured this internship opportunity. Xiaofin was the same, but her legs weren't very convenient. So, she naturally walked with Kong Xiaobo every day. Xiaofin's house was demolished. Her mother rented a house near the new house. Once the house was renovated, she could move in. Take this money, get a driver's license, and buy a car. Otherwise, it'll be inconvenient for you to take care of Xiaofin every day. Use the rest of the money to buy some home appliances for Xiaofin? 300,000 was nothing to Lin Yi. Naturally, he wouldn't carry a suitcase of money back to school. How can I do that? Kong Xiaobo was shocked. He never thought that the money would be given to him. Although Lin Yi worked under him, Kong Xiaobo knew his own limits. He didn't think about the money. So, when he left, he proposed to return the money to Lin Yi. He just didn't expect Lin Yi to give the money to him. There's nothing wrong with it. Just take it. Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder and waved his hand. Lin Yi was a person who could distinguish between kindness and hatred. He was good to his friends and bad to his enemies. Even if his enemies didn't provoke him, Lin Yi would beat them up whenever he had the chance. For example, just now, Kong Mingming lost 300,000 for no reason. Although Kong Xiaobo didn't help Lin Yi much, Lin Yi didn't care. When Zhong Pingliang came to his door, Kong Xiaobo's sacrifice was enough to make Lin Yi look at him in a different light. Friendship wasn't about taking things from each other. So, Lin Yi wouldn't ignore Kong Xiaobo just because he couldn't help him. Chapter 865. Cured, sick again. Jindajo spent money like water these days. He spent more than 10 million to treat Zhen Ingjun at Yaowang's place. Although his crooked mouth, lame feet, and the diseases that were transferred to his hands and ears were also cured, Zhen Ingjuan's body had other diseases. Impotence. After Zhen Ingjuan's hands and ears were healed, Jindajo brought him to a massage center to celebrate his recovery. He wanted to wash away his bad luck, but during the massage, he ordered a prostitute out of interest. Sadly, he became a living eunuch. After taking a few Viagra, it didn't work. Zhen Ingjun panicked and couldn't care less. He stumbled to the door of his father's room, next door. Zhen Ingjun called a prostitute. How could Jindajo just wait there like an idiot? He naturally ordered a prostitute as well. After entering the room, he was having fun when he suddenly heard a knock on the door. He jumped in fright and almost had a heart attack. This massage center was managed by Zihua, and he was the one who introduced them to this place. It was said to be very safe, and he didn't expect to be disturbed. Jindajo put on a bathrobe and opened the door while cursing. "Who is it?" "Dad, it's me. I'm Ingjun." Zhen Ingjun knocked on the door anxiously. Jindajo was a little nervous when he thought it was the police or his enemies, but when he heard it was his son, Zhen Ingjun, he was enraged. "You little bastard, I can't get up now." "Knock my kidney, what's wrong?" "Huh." Zhen Ingjun froze and said in fear, "Dad, you can't get it up too?" "No way." "It's all because you scared me." Jindajo frowned and suddenly froze. "What? You can't get it up too?" "Yeah, Dad, I can't get it up. What should I do?" Zhen Ingjuan's voice sounded like he was about to cry. "I've taken 3 Viagra, but it's useless. It suddenly doesn't work." Jindajo jumped in fright and immediately lost the desire to play with Mississippi. His lust also dissipated. He quickly opened the door and let Zhen Ingjun in. He asked anxiously, "Really? What is going on?" "I know, but there's no reaction." Zhen Ingjun cried as if his father had just died. "Dad, am I crippled now?" Jindajo only had one son, and he was counting on him to carry on the family line. Hearing Zhen Ingjuan's words, A huge blister appeared on the corner of his mouth. Don't worry, are you sure you have no reaction? Yeah, I'm sure. Zhang Yingjun nodded. Look, I'm like this right now. Zhang Yingjun didn't care that there was a prostitute in the room. He took off his bathrobe and showed it to Zhendazhou. Zhendazhou was a little anxious. He pointed at the lady in the room and said, Get out first. This is your money. Don't say anything about this. As he spoke, Zhendazhou gave the lady a bunch of money and sent her away. The lady knew that something big happened to Zhang Yingjun and his son and didn't dare to say anything. She took the money and quickly nodded before leaving the room. Yingjun, when did this start? Were there any signs before? Zhendazhou asked carefully. No, Dad. You know that I've been sick for a while. I didn't touch any women, but when I came here today, I realized something was wrong. Zhang Yingjun said it was still working before. Before we came to Songshan, I went to look for my little lover. So it happened after you got sick? Could there be any side effects? Zhendazhou could only think of this possibility. It's possible. Dad, let's go look for Zhao Yaowang. He's amazing at bringing people back to life. He must have a solution. Zhang Yingjun listened to his father's analysis and thought that it was possible. Other than Sequila, there was no other possibility. The two of them thought about it and quickly put on their clothes. They left the medical center and rushed to the floating cloud bar. In the floating cloud bar, Zhao Qibing looked at the money on the deposit receipt and was overjoyed. Wahahaha, I'm such a genius. I thought of such a genius idea. I didn't think that Zhang Yingjun, that idiot, would give me 10 million in just a few days. It's so easy to earn money. Of course. Psihua flattered. Master Bing's idea to earn money is the best. Of course, Yaowang's contribution is also a big part of it. I just helped. If it wasn't for Master Bing's idea to change the patient's condition again and again, I wouldn't be able to collect so much money from a patient no matter how good I am. Yaowang said humbly. And not bad. Yaowang, don't be so humble. You're the one who made the money this time. I'll tell my father. Zhao Qibing didn't want to take all the credit for himself. He was a person who was good at winning people's hearts and knew how to make people follow him wholeheartedly. Just like Zhong Fabai and the others, they were all loyal to him now. Zhao Qibing only needed to show them some kindness in exchange for a group of loyal subordinates. Why wouldn't he do it? He understood that even if Yaowang was the main contributor, House Zhao would know that he was the mastermind behind all of this. Yaowang wouldn't take the credit away from him. The mastermind, no matter what. Thank you, Master Bing. Yaowang said gratefully. Yaowang started learning medicine at the age of 3 and started to roam the world at the age of 15. Back then, he also played the trick of treating patients worse and worse. However, because he offended a rich family, he was caught and almost beaten to death. If it wasn't for the head of House Zhao Guanyin, who saved him, there wouldn't be Yaowang today. So, Yaowang was very grateful to House Zhao. He felt that his life was given to him by House Zhao. No matter what House Zhao asked him to do, it was only natural. Master Bing was Zhao Guangyin's son, so naturally he would support him with all his heart. He didn't ask for anything in return. He stayed in House Zhao with the intention to repay their kindness. Now that Zhao Qibing was going to teach him Qigong, how could he not be touched? Although he didn't care about anything, he still hoped that House Zhao would value him. But this father and son from House Zhen are rich. 10 million, TSK, it's still a little too little. We haven't squeezed them to the limit yet. If we could squeeze more money out of them, that would be even better. Zhao Qibing said regretfully. Chapter 866. Framing Lin. Really? But wouldn't he suspect something if we do that? Zhao Qibing wasn't stupid. Although he was greedy, he didn't want to ruin his reputation. We want long-term benefits, not Zhang Yingjun's money. It'll be bad if they suspect that we did it. They won't. I did it discreetly. They don't have the intelligence to find out. Yao Wang waved his hand confidently. Besides, even if they go to the hospital, they won't be able to find anything. That's good, as long as we aren't involved. Zhao Qibing nodded in satisfaction. Of course not. Not only will they not implicate us, but they will also give us more money soon. Yao Wang sneered. Master Bing, watch me. All right, I'll wait for that idiot Zhen in June to give me money. Zhao Qibing nodded happily. Yao Wang was right. Not long after, Su Jianong ran in. Master Bing, Zhen Ingjun and his son are here again. They want to see Yao Wang. Let them in. Zhao Qibing couldn't wait anymore. The more he tasted money, the more he couldn't stop. Su Jianong quickly brought Zhen Dazhou and Zhen Ingjun into the back room. As soon as they entered, Zhen Dazhou raged. Yao Wang, what kind of illness did you treat? Why is it getting worse? Why did you treat something that wasn't sick before? Although Zhen Dazhou was a boorish man, he was meticulous. He knew that it wasn't reliable to blame Zhen Ingjuan's illness on the sequelae. But in order to let Yao Wang treat his son and spend less money, he had no choice but to complain first. Zhen Dazhou, watch your words. Is this a place for you to be arrogant? Even if this is your territory, you better behave yourself in front of me. Zhao Qibing frowned unhappily, but his heart was beating like a drum. Did Zhen Dazhou and Zhen Ingjun find out something? Zhen Dazhou's face froze. Indeed, he was only thinking about Yao Wang and forgot that this was Zhao Qibing's territory. He didn't dare offend Zhao Qibing. It wouldn't be hard for the power behind Zhao Qibing to kill him. So, Dazhou's face turned into a smile. Master Bing, don't be angry. If you have something to say, then say it nicely. Don't think that just because you spent money to see the king pharmacist, you are a god. In my place, customers are not gods. Zhao Qibing curled his lips. Seeing that Dazhou didn't dare to act rashly, he calmed down and sneered. We don't accept normal people who want to see Yao Wang. Of course, of course. Dazhou didn't dare to say anything after seeing Zhao Qibing's attitude. He said with a bitter face, Master Bing, Yao Wang, please take a look at my son. Didn't I cure Zhen Ingjuan's illness? What else are you looking at? Yao Wang pretended to be confused as he looked at Zhen Dazhou. No, he's still sick. Zhen Dazhou quickly said. You're sick? I can't tell. Your mouth and ears aren't crooked. Your hands and legs are working. You're a handsome young man. What's wrong with you? Yao Wang looked at Zhen Ingjun and said, No, it's not on the surface. It's a hidden illness. Zhen Dazhou quickly said, Ingjun can't get it up. Can't get it up? Yao Wang froze. Zhao Qibing and Sihua also pretended to be surprised and opened their mouths wide. They looked at Zhen Ingjun in disbelief. How can you not get it up? When did you find out that you can't get it up? Just now. Zhen Ingjun said hurriedly, My dad and I went to the massage center under Sihua Bro's protection. I just wanted to take a hot shower to wash away my bad luck. Then I went to a prostitute and my lower body didn't have any reaction after taking 3 Viagra. Did you have this illness before? Yao Wang frowned and asked. No, I wouldn't be a prostitute if I had this illness. Zhen Ingjun quickly shook his head. I can't offend Lin, E for those 2 girls. If you're not sick, why did you take Viagra? Why did you take so many? Yao Wang sneered in his heart. You weren't sick before, but your kidneys are weak. Yao Wang had already checked it before. Zhen Ingjun was embarrassed and laughed dryly. I just don't have much stamina. Yao Wang nodded and looked at Zhen Ingjun carefully. All right, give me your hand. I'll check your pulse. Yes. Zhen Ingjun quickly gave his hand to Yao Wang, and Yao Wang pretended to check his pulse. In fact, Zhen Ingjuan's illness was caused by him, and he didn't need to check his pulse at all. He was just pretending for the Zhen father and son. After a while, Yao Wang's brows slowly locked together. He didn't say anything and only closed his eyes in silence. Did he have a serious illness that scared the Zhen father and son? Zhen Dazhou was counting on Zhen Ingjun to carry on the family line. Now that he was disabled, what would he do in the future? Wouldn't he die without descendants? Zhan Yingjun, on the other hand, didn't think so far ahead, but he was also scared. After all, he couldn't play with women anymore, and his life would lose a lot of fun. You are not sick. After a while, Yao Wang spat out these 3 words. Not sick? Zhan Dazhou and Zhan Yingjun widened their eyes and looked at Yao Wang in disbelief. Zhan Yingjun screamed, How can I not be sick? That's the truth. Yao Wang, if you don't believe me, I'll take off my pants for you to see. There's no need for that. Yao Wang waved his hand. I said you're not sick because you're not sick, but you said you're impotent. This is real. Oh, what do you mean? Zhan Yingjun was confused. You're impotent. This isn't an illness. Someone did something to you. Yao Wang sighed and looked at Zhan Yingjun sympathetically. I didn't expect Lin Yi to be so evil. Not only did he make you sick on the surface, but he also made you a cripple in the dark. He's so evil. Huh? Lin Yi again? Zhan Yingjun was furious when he heard that it was also Lin Yi's fault. Dad, this Lin Yi is too evil. I want to kill him. Dazhou was infuriated as well. He didn't think that Lin Yi would be this evil, leaving his son with such an illness. Yingjun, don't worry, I'll avenge you. Dazhou was furious as well. He didn't expect Lin Yi to be this evil. Chapter 867. The price was a little. Lo Zhaoqibing and Lin Yi had a grudge against each other. If he could transfer the grudge to Jin Dazhou and Zhan Yingjun and let them deal with Lin Yi, why not? Yao Wang felt that this was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Master Bing would praise him again. Of course, we have to treat him first. Zhan Yingjun quickly said, Yao Wang, can my illness be treated? Yes, but it's difficult. The King of Medicine sighed. To me, the King of Medicine, there is naturally no illness that cannot be cured, but the degree of difficulty is different. Previously, when I was treating you, I already wasted a lot of qi. Now, your illness is not small, and it also needs to use qi. Yao Wang, don't worry, I won't shortchange your medical fees. Just tell me how much you need. Zhan Dazhou quickly said when he heard that his son could be saved. You have to ask Master Bing about this. If I use all my qi on you, then if other patients come, I won't be able to save them. At that time, the loss won't be just a little. Yao Wang said with some difficulty, How about this? I'll treat Yingjun after I recover my pure energy. How about that? That way, the medical fees will be cheaper. This. How long do I have to wait? Zhan Dazhou didn't have much money left. He came to Songshan with 50 million to invest in the gambling boat. But before he even invested, he had to spend more than 10 million to treat his son's illness. From Yao Wang's tone, it seemed like treating his son's illness would cost a lot more than before. He hesitated. If he could wait for a while, why not wait if it was cheaper? 3 to 5 years, Yao Wang said indifferently. Huh. Zhan Yingjun and Zhan Dazhou froze and looked at each other. 3 to 5 years? Zhan Dazhou thought that he would only have to wait for a few days, at most a month. Who knew that it would be 3 to 5 years? Wasn't that too long? Zhan Yingjun couldn't wait any longer. If something went wrong or he couldn't find Yao Wang, wouldn't he be a eunuch for the rest of his life? Thinking of this, Zhan Yingjun couldn't help but look at Zhan Dazhou for help. Zhan Dazhou also thought of this. How could he wait? If he waited any longer and something went wrong, then his Zhan family would have no descendants. Zhan Dazhou gritted his teeth and asked, Master Bing, the consultation fee is not a problem. As long as we can cure Yingjun's illness, money is not a problem. This. Master Bing hesitated and said awkwardly, Sigh, it's not that I don't want to treat you, but life has a price and qi is priceless. Zhan Dazhou only wanted to curse after hearing Master Bing's words. What kind of theory was this? Life was priceless and qi was priceless. However, Zhan Dazhou couldn't get angry. He could only hold back his anger and said, It's okay. Just say it. At least 30 million. Qi Bing said faintly. Huh. Jean Dajo was dumbfounded when he heard the price. Although he expected the price to be high, he didn't expect it to be this high. 30 million. That was earned by Dong Hai bit by bit, and it was gone just like that? Master Bing, the price. Yao Wang heard the price and was in a difficult position. Jean Dajo was overjoyed when he heard Yao Wang's words. It seemed that Yao Wang also felt that the price was a bit high and wanted to help him. Yao Wang was such a good person. Thus he hurriedly echoed, Yes, this price is really a bit low. Yao Wang followed, My qi is priceless. Jean Dajo almost vomited blood when he heard Yao Wang's words. So Yao Wang thought that the price was too low, not too high? Yet he had foolishly agreed with them. He was truly foolish to the extreme. Oh, Jean Dajo, you think so too? It seems like I'm really a kind person, asking for such a low price. Zhao Qibing shook his head in self-mockery. If that's the case, you can add more. That? Ha 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 ha. I'm a bit short on money, recently. 30 million it is. Jean Dajo awkwardly agreed to the price. How could he dare to disagree? If he didn't, it might become 40 million soon. And 30 million it is. I've already said it. Yao Wang, this is the price, right? What do you think? Zhao Qibing looked at Yao Wang and asked, Okay, whatever Master Bing says, we'll do it. Yao Wang nodded. Thank you, Master Bing. I'll go prepare the money now. Jean Dajo said, Ingjun and I will leave first. We'll come back when we have the money. Dad, why don't you prepare the money, and I'll stay here for treatment. Zhen Ingjun didn't understand why his father wanted him to leave with him. How can we do that? How can we let Yao Wang treat you without money? You're so stupid. Jean Dajo glared at Zhen Ingjun and said. Zhen Ingjun had no choice but to follow his father out of the bar and asked curiously, Dad, why did you drag me out? It'll be better if you let me treat the illness first. It'll prevent more problems. We came in a hurry and thought it was a side effect, but it doesn't seem to be. So, I'm thinking, should we go to the hospital and have a look? What if the hospital can treat it too? Then we won't have to waste money, right? Jean Dajo wasn't stupid and had some intelligence. You're right, I was too impatient. Zhen Ingjun nodded. Yeah, 30 million can be used for anything. But if it's used for treatment, it'll hurt my heart. The father and son discussed and stopped a taxi to go straight to the hospital. However, they went to the First People's Hospital, the male specialist hospital, and so on. In the end, they couldn't find anything. The medicine king was right about his illness. He didn't have any illness, so what could the hospital find? This was all Yao Wang's doing. Whoever started the trouble should end it. How would others know how Yao Wang did it? After coming out of the hospital, the father and son completely believed Yao Wang's words. Jean Dajo sighed. It seems like you really aren't sick. It's that Lin who did something to you. Even the big hospitals said that you aren't sick. It seems like only Yao Wang can treat you. Chapter 868. Revenge in June. I can't let this Lin go even if you don't say it. He made me lose 40 million. Do you think my money is so easily lost? This debt, I will definitely put on Lin Yi's head. Dajo laughed coldly and said fiercely. He was also exasperated. Who was he, Jean Dajo? When had he ever suffered such humiliation? Right, Dad. I heard that Meng Yao's family's pretty rich, and Lin Yi's her bodyguard. Why don't we make a move on Meng Yao and get her to pay us the money? Zhen Ingjun immediately turned his attention to Meng Yao. He more or less knew about Lin Yi from Zhao Qibing. Of course. Zhen Ingjun didn't know that Zhao Qibing purposely leaked this information to him so that he could be cannon fodder. I know. I've already asked someone to investigate. Pingzhan Industries is very famous in the province. Dajo, on the other hand, had his sights set on Pingzhan. He thought it through very well. If his son was in this state because of his daughter, then who else would pay for the medical fees? Not only did he have to pay for the medical fees, but he also had to give some compensation. Yes. Zhang Yingjun heard that his father also wanted to cause trouble for Meng Yao, and he felt relieved. But we must kill that Lin Yi. It won't be easy to kill Lin Yi. I heard that he is a master at the early phase of the mystic class, and that Li Fu beside Pingzhan is also a master at the peak of the late phase of the golden class. It won't be easy for us to touch them. Jin Dazhou got some of the information from his investigation, but most of it came from Zhao Qibing. What's the use of those masters? Don't we have guns? No matter how strong he is, can he be invulnerable? Zhang Yingjun said in disdain, Dad, where are your men who are doing business on the high seas? Tell them to come back and kill Lin Yi. Although the Zhen family had some business in the East Sea, the most profitable business was the one that had no capital. The Zhen family had a pirate group, codenamed Firearm Team, that specialized in robbing cargo ships on the high seas. Every year, it provided the Zhen family with a large amount of wealth. Of course, this business didn't belong to the Zhen family. With the Zhen family's strength, they couldn't afford such a large business. This business was managed by Zhan Dazhou on behalf of a distant relative. That distant relative took the majority, while Zhan Dazhou only took 20%. Childish. You're going to call in a firearm team from the city and give Lin Yi a round of bullets? Wouldn't that be waiting for the police to destroy our Zhen family? Zhan Dazhou glared at Zhang Yingjun and said angrily, Although these cultivators are afraid of guns, a sneak attack with 1 or 2 guns won't be able to hit them because they are too fast. The only way to kill them is if a group of people fire at the same time and shoot randomly. But unless there's no one around, if there's such a large-scale gunfight in the city, I'll be arrested as the leader of a terrorist organization tomorrow. I'm sorry, Dad, I didn't think it through. Zhang Yingjun thought that having a firearm team was a great thing, and he wasn't afraid of anything in this world. However, after hearing his father's words, he realized that he was taking it for granted. But your suggestion is good. I have a plan to deal with them. Zhan Dazhou's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness. Let's go. We'll go find Yao Wang first. Dad, how are you going to deal with them? Zhang Yingjun was impatient. I'm going to ask for help from your 4th uncle and ask him to send his master to help. Zhan Dazhou said. This 4th uncle was Zhan Dazhou's business partner. 80% of the business on the sea belonged to him, and Zhan Dazhou was working for him. Oh, Ma Zhu, who works for 4th uncle? Zhang Yingjun quickly asked. I heard that he's also a mystic division master? Yes, when we were fighting for business on the sea. Your 4th uncle sent him to help me. You didn't see how good he was. Zhan Dazhou seemed to be recalling the events of the past. 1 kick, and one of them was kicked to death. Even his head was sent flying. Can he deal with Lin Yi? Zhang Yingjun didn't care much about cultivators and warriors. He always felt that they weren't as good as guns. But according to his father, they couldn't use guns on a large scale in the city. Of course he can. Zhan Dazhou said. He's a physical master in the middle phase of the mystic division. I heard from Zhao Qibing that Lin Yi is only in the early phase of the mystic division. Of course he can deal with him. Zhan Dazhou didn't know the difference between physical and spiritual, but he felt that the middle phase of the mystic division was definitely stronger than the early phase of the mystic division. Then let him kill Lin Yi directly? But that won't be enough. Zhang Yingjun felt that killing Lin Yi directly was too easy on him. Of course we can't kill him directly. Dazhou shook his head. What we need to do is to let Ma Zhu kidnap Meng Yao and Yushu. His opponent is only that Li Fu. As long as he defeats Li Fu, we'll be able to capture Meng Yao and Yushu. With the hostages, we can threaten Pingzhan to ransom them. Of course, we can ask Lin Yi to deliver the ransom to a deserted place and let the firearms team shoot him to death. Great. Not only can we get a large sum of money, but we can also take revenge. Zhang Yingjun's eyes lit up after hearing his father's words. All right, it's settled then, but I have to be cured first. Meng Yao and Yushu, I will definitely kill these 2 girls. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Jean Dajo laughed along with his son. A revenge plan was formed just like that. In the floating cloud bar, Zhao Qibing said unhappily, "What is Jean Dajo doing with Zhen Yingjun? He doesn't want to be cured." Why aren't they back yet? No, I think Zhen Dajo wants to take Zhen Yingjun to the hospital to confirm if he's sick or not. Yao Wang saw through Zhen Dajo's intention. Oh, would the hospital be able to tell? Qibing paused and asked. Master Bing, don't you trust me, Yao Wang? Don't worry, they'll be back soon. Yao Wang said. Master Bing, you'll definitely earn this money. Then I'm relieved. Zhao Qibing nodded. That's fast, but there aren't many fat sheep like them. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to make money from real estate. Chapter 869. A good plan. Of course, we have Lin Yi to take the blame for us. What's there to be afraid of? Zhao Qibing waved his hand. But this time we have to get a hidden illness that's hard to notice. It's best to let him notice it after a while. You're right. I understand, Master Bing, don't worry. Yao Wang nodded. I'll get him a disease that affects his eyesight and make his eyes blurry until he can't see anything. Of course, this will take around a year. Okay, let's do that. 1 year later, when House Shen has earned enough money, they'll send it to us. Wahahaha. Zhao Qibing laughed excitedly. Just as Yao Wang predicted, Zhen Dajo brought Zhen Yingjun back. They couldn't find anything wrong with their son in the hospital, so they could only come back to Zhao Qibing to be cheated. Master Bing, I've finally collected the money. When can we start the treatment? Zhen Dajo said with a smile. He was now sure that only the king pharmacist could cure his son's illness. Actually, we could have started just now. You're our old customer. You don't have to pay first. Zhao Qibing said sarcastically. I was just thinking about it. Let's get the money together first. Zhen Dajo didn't know if Zhao Qibing guessed the reason why he left and felt a little awkward. Shall we start now? Yao Wang nodded. Okay, let's start then. Follow Li Xihua to complete the transfer. I'll start treating your son now. Zhen Dajo followed Xihua to complete the transfer while Yao Wang pretended to treat Zhen Yingjun. He held the silver needles in his left hand and pressed on Zhen Yingjun's pulse with his right hand. He transferred traces of pure energy into Zhen Yingjun's body, making Zhen Yingjun feel as if his entire body was heating up. The silver needles instantly covered Zhen Yingjun's body, turning him into a porcupine. However, Zhen Yingjun believed in Yao Wang's medical skills and wasn't afraid. In fact, Yao Wang only inserted one needle in the right spot. The other needles were just for show and didn't pierce into the acupoints at all. The last one was to destroy his vision, but Zhen Yingjun didn't know about it and thought that it was some kind of magic. The medicine king used his true qi to heat up his body, so he was sweating profusely. In the eyes of others, it looked like he had overexerted himself and was exhausted. Looking at the medicine king, who was sweating profusely, Zhen Dajo sighed. It seemed that this 30 million was not easy to earn. How much Zhen qi would be consumed? It's so hot, I'm dying. Zhen Yingjun was scalded by Yao Wang, and his body turned red as if he was cooked. Yingjun, you have to persevere. Zhen Dajo quickly encouraged his son. The process of treatment is naturally painful. I know, I will endure it. The teenage mutant ninja turtle is extremely brave. Zhen Yingjun started to mutter some words of encouragement. Zhen Yingjun was tormented for more than an hour, and Yao Wang didn't have it easy either. He was suffocating from the heat, but for the sake of the 30 million, he had to put on an act. He had to make Zhen Dajo feel that the 30 million was worth it. Only then could he go out and advertise for him and show how amazing Yao Wang was. There's a reaction. After a while, Zhen Yingjun suddenly realized that his lower body had a reaction. He shouted happily, "Dad, I'm having a reaction!" "Oh, that's great!" Zhen Dajo walked over and was excited. Yao Wang is really a miracle worker. Even the doctors in the hospital said that there's no disease that can't be cured. Yao Wang's hands can cure the disease. That's right. Don't you know who Yao Wang is? Zhao Qibing said proudly, but in his heart he was cursing Zhen Dazhou for being an idiot. This was Yao Wang's doing. If he couldn't cure it, who could? Phew! The medicine king finally began to stop. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "All right, it has been cured. But this old man's physical strength is not up to it. I need to adjust my breathing." "Yao Wang, you've worked hard." Zhen Dazhou saw how tired Yao Wang was and felt that the 30 million was worth it. Although he had treated Jian Yingjuan's illness many times before, it was never this tiring. It seemed like his son's illness was really hard to cure. Yao Wang waved his hand and didn't say anything. He just sat there with his eyes closed, and Jian Yingjun jumped up in excitement. "Dad, it's really working. It's really cured." That's good, that's good." Zhen Dazhou sighed in relief. "Thank you, Master Bing and Yao Wang." "You're welcome. I have to congratulate your son for regaining his manhood." Zhao Qibing laughed. "But you spent the 30 million in vain." "Why do you say that?" Zhen Dazhou froze, as he didn't expect Zhao Qibing to say that. If it wasn't for Meng Yao and Yushu, if it wasn't for Linny helping them, would Jian Yingjun have so many problems? Would you have suffered such a huge loss? Zhao Qibing started to convince Zhen Dazhou to go against Lin Yi. "Yeah, this time I won't let him go so easily. But I still need your help, Master Bing. Help me investigate Pingzhan Industries." Zhen Dazhou felt that he was unfamiliar with this place, and he needed to rely on the locals to do anything in Songshan. Zhou Tiandi had obviously distanced himself from him these days, and Zhen Dazhou had heard about the grudge between Zhou Tiandi and Lin Yi. He laughed at Zhou Tiandi's cowardice and decided not to bother him anymore. That's not a problem." Zhao Qibing nodded generously. "After all, we're old friends. I can help you with this. But how are you going to deal with Lin Yi? If it's convenient, can I give you some advice? Lin Yi and I are old enemies." Zhen Dazhou had heard about the grudge between Zhao Qibing and Lin Yi, so he dared to tell Zhao Qibing about his plan to deal with Lin Yi. "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." He believed that Zhao Qibing wouldn't betray him. "It's like this I'm preparing to." Zhen Dazhou told Zhao Qibing his plan to deal with Lin. "Oh, that's a good plan. Why didn't I think of it before?" Zhao Qibing slapped the table and praised Zhen Dazhou's plan. "First, kidnap Meng Yao and Yushu with a mystic class, mid-phase master. Then lure Lin Yi to a place with no one around and shoot randomly. Even if he doesn't die, he'll be heavily injured. Then, let the mystic class master kill Lin Yi. Brilliant." Chapter 870. The exact same prescription. What's wrong, Master Bing? You think this plan is feasible too? Dazhou was overjoyed. He didn't expect his plan to be approved by Master Bing. "It's doable, very doable." Qibing nodded and looked at Sihua. "Sihua, what do you think?" "It's doable." Sihua nodded in agreement. "Whatever information you need, I'll provide it to you." "Thank you so much, Sihua bro." Dazhou quickly thanked him. "I'll go contact that master first. Wait." Yao Wang spoke again. "Yao Wang, is there anything else?" Dazhou paused, but since it was Yao Wang who spoke, he didn't dare to be slow. He quickly stopped and turned back. "Your illness today reminded me that although your son seems to be fine now, it's hard to say if Lin Yi has done anything else. You have to be careful. If anything goes wrong when you go back, don't be careless." Yao Wang started to give Dazhou a heads up. "What? There's more?" Dazhou was furious. "Isn't this Lin Yi too wicked?" "There's more. It's just a guess, I can't be sure. After all, I only thought of it after what happened today," Yao Wang sighed. "Then, Yao Wang, can you check Yingjun again?" Dazhou asked carefully. "I can't find anything right now." "How can I check when there's no illness?" "I can't check every part of your son's body, can I?" If I do that, my pure energy will run out and I'll die. Yao Wang waved his hand and rejected Dazhou's suggestion. I see. Dazhou couldn't force it after hearing Yao Wang's words, but his heart felt like it was blocked. He was very unhappy, and his hatred for Lin increased by another level. But don't worry, there's no illness that Yao Wang, can't cure. If there's any problem, come find me. Yao Wang comforted. That's the only way. Zhan Dazhou had no choice but to leave with his son. After Zhan Dazhou and his son left, Zhao Qibing sighed. What two idiots! I really hope they get lucky and kill Lin Yi again. Let them do whatever they want. We just need to focus on earning our own money. Zihua said, Master Bing, now that we have 40 million in our account, shouldn't we start building the orphanage? Oh, okay. Get ready. Take the king pharmacist to the orphanage and warn them. Tell them to move away, or I'll kill them, Qibing said arrogantly. Now that he had a guaranteed way to earn money, he was much more domineering. Master Bing, but I'm not good at fighting, right? Yao Wang's listless expression changed to one of high spirits. Don't worry, you just need to show the strength of a mystic class master. I don't think that the dean, a golden class master, would dare to fight a mystic class master like you directly, Qibing said nonchalantly. You're not going to fight her, you're going to scare her. Don't worry, as long as she's not an idiot, she won't fight you. Okay, Yao Wang relaxed. Master Bing, I'll go take a shower first. I almost died from the heat. I'm sweating all over. 30 million isn't easy to earn. Huh? Zhao Qibing heard Yao Wang's words and smiled happily. Yao Wang, don't worry. No matter what, you're the main contributor. I'll remember it. Thank you, Master Bing. Yao Wang quickly cupped his hands in thanks. There was a Zhao Yao Wang in Songshan, and his miraculous hands were comparable to Hua Tuo's. The news spread from the Zhen father and son, and with Zihua's purposely spreading rumors, Zhao Yao Wang's name quickly spread through the upper class of Songshan, and even many outsiders knew about him, however, because of Zhao Yao Wang's high fees, other than Zhen Yingjun, who couldn't be cured by others. No one else was willing to spend so much money. So even though Zhao Yao Wang was famous, there weren't any patients. Kong Mingming got the Yao Wang formula for miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine from Kong Xiaobo, and he was overjoyed. He didn't think that he'd get the formula so easily. If he'd known, he wouldn't have gone after Guan Xan. However, Kong Xiaobo's power was limited. It was easy to get the formula for the injury medicine, but it wouldn't be so easy to get the formula for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Kong Xiaobo's access was limited after all. It seemed like he had to start from Guan Xuemin's side. Of course, this was a matter for the future. At least he had something to report now. Kong Mingming happily returned to House Kong with the formula for miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. Dr. Kong was quite satisfied with Kong Mingming's achievements. After all, the formula for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing couldn't be rushed, and Kong Mingming getting the formula for miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine back was a great achievement. As expected, this formula is exactly the same as our House Kang's formula. Dr. Kong held the formula from Kong Mingming and was furious. It must be that bastard Kong Xiaobo who offered this formula to Guan Xuemin in exchange for the position of vice president. Greedy bastard, ruining House Kang's plans. Of course, Dr. Kong didn't doubt the authenticity of the formula. After all, the formula was in Dr. Kang's hands. Even Kong Guifeng and Kong Tsuepu didn't know about it, let alone Kong Mingming. The only one who knew the formula was Kong Xiaolong, and Xiaolong wouldn't leak it out. He'd already decided that Xiaolong would be the future head of House Kong. Why would he betray his own interests? So this recipe had to be Xiaobo's handiwork. Yeah, he sold it to me for 300,000, so naturally he'd give it to Guan Xuemin for the position of vice president. Kong Mingming nodded in agreement. Humph. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being rude. Dr. Kong smiled coldly. Yes, Grandpa, we can't let them have it easy, Kong Mingming said. Chapter 871. Showering with them? So that's how it is. I was thinking that after their products hit the market, we could just buy a few boxes and slowly test them. Why would we need to spend so much money on a prescription? So it turns out that we want to give them a blow when their products hit the market. Kong Ming nodded in realization. Xiaolong didn't explain it too clearly to him on the phone, and Kong Ming didn't really know what the recipe was for. Xiaolong, you go prepare for this, and make sure that Miracle Dr. Guan's company's reputation is ruined. Dr. Kong said to Xiaolong, come up with a plan and show it to me. Yes, Grandpa. Xiaolong nodded and agreed. Scheming was his forte, and he had to make sure that Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's reputation hit rock bottom. Not only would it affect his impression in front of Miracle Dr. Kong, but it was also because House Kong would be Xiaolong's House Kong in the future. He had to kill Guan Shuamin in the cradle. He couldn't let them take away his market share and position. Right, Grandpa? Guan Xian's already engaged. What should we do about this? Our previous plan won't work. She's engaged. How could she still be friends with me? Kong Ming blamed his failure on Guan Xian's engagement, but House Kong didn't know the specifics, and they didn't doubt Kong Ming's ability to pick up girls. That's our mistake. We didn't think that Guan Xian was already engaged, and now the recipe for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is going to be difficult. Dr. Kong frowned after hearing Kong Ming's words. He knew that a girl like Guan Xian wouldn't be too intimate with another man after she was engaged, so their plan to steal the recipe was obviously not going to work. But Dr. Kong didn't want to give it up just like that. After all, this prescription could be the stepping stone for the Kong family to successfully become an aristocratic family. It could allow the Kong family's strength to rise to a higher level and reach a higher position. Yes, I didn't do my research properly and acted rashly. Thank goodness I didn't alert them, or it'd be even more troublesome. Kong Ming wasn't stupid. He was afraid that his grandpa would blame him, so he admitted his mistake quickly. I've disappointed everyone. Grandpa, you can't blame Xiaoming for this. Xiaolong had to show his generosity as the leader of the third generation. Although it was true that Xiaoming didn't investigate the matter thoroughly, who would have thought that Guan Xian had an engagement? Xiaolong said, this isn't something that can be stopped with mere human strength. Xiaolong's right. Xiaolong is right. You don't need to belittle yourself, Xiaoming. You've already done very well. As for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, we'll think of something else. Dr. Kong said, don't worry, Grandpa. I'll head back to Songshan if there's nothing else. I'll keep trying to find out more, but I'll have to rely on my family's support for the expenses. Kong Ming was living a carefree life in Songshan, and he didn't have any supervision from his family. That's not a problem. I'll give you another $1 million for the expenses. Let me know if it's not enough. As long as we can get the recipe for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, it'll be worth it no matter how much money we spend. Miracle Dr. Kong said, right, you'll have to work harder on the sourcing channel. If we get a hold of Shuamin's raw material sourcing channel, we'll seal it off completely. I'd like to see what they'll be able to sell in the future. What's the use of a recipe? Okay, I got it. Kong Xiaoming nodded and replied. Lin Yi sat on the sofa, watching Pleasant Goat and Big Wolf with the Miss and Yushu. He didn't understand why the Miss and Yushu would like to watch kid stuff at their age. But then again, it was understandable that they were a little childish since they'd been living together all day, not interacting much with the outside world. The night was boring, especially with Yushu and Mengyao watching TV. Lin Yi didn't have anything to do, so he picked up the phone on the table and started playing games. He'd volunteered to watch TV with them just now, and it'd be a little embarrassing if he were to leave halfway through. Wouldn't that be a little too much of a disgrace? The Miss seemed to be someone who cared a lot about face. I'm going to shower. Lin Yi wasn't interested in it at all, and when the show was finally over, he tossed his phone on the coffee table and stood up, preparing to take a shower in his room. I'm going to shower too. Meng Yao stretched her body. What about you? Oh, I haven't finished my apple yet. I'll watch TV for a while. Yao Yao sis, you go shower first. Yushu used the remote control to change the channel, her mouth stuffed with half an apple as she mumbled. Meng Yao turned around and went upstairs. General Weiwu saw that the people in the living room had left, so it wagged its tail and went back to its place, under the stairs. Not long after Lin Yi and Meng Yao left, Lin Yi's phone rang, scaring Yushu. She picked it up and saw the name Tang Yin. She hesitated before picking it up. Hello? Hello. Tang Yin froze. Why was it a girl's voice? She subconsciously thought that she'd called the wrong number. But when she saw that it was indeed Lin Yi's name, she couldn't help but feel strange. You are? Isn't this Lin Yi's number? Yes, I'm Shu, the automated voice answering machine. What can I do for you? You can leave me a message, or I'll pass it on to Shield Bro. Yushu said. Hashtag Tang Yin heard Yushu's voice and was speechless. Shu, where's Lin Yi? Oh, Shield Bro and Yao Yao sis are showering right now. Why are you looking for him? Yushu smiled mischievously. Shower? Lin Yi and Meng Yao. Tang Yin heard Yushu's words and was taken aback. Why did Lin Yi and Meng Yao go to shower? Yeah, Yushu said. Together. Tang Yin didn't believe Yushu's words. This girl always talked nonsense. Who knew if she was telling the truth or not? Tang Yin's vigilance was high now, and normal people couldn't lie to her. Yeah, Yushu replied. Then why don't you go with him? Aren't you Lin Yi's mistress? Tang Yin asked. Chapter 872. Can you see through things? Tang Yin frowned. If Yushu had said that she had just finished showering or was about to shower, then Tang Yin wouldn't have believed her. But Yushu's explanation made Tang Yin a little uneasy. All right, I won't talk to you anymore. I've said too much. If Yao Yao sis finds out, I'll die a horrible death. Bye-bye. Yushu didn't wait for Tang Yin to reply and hung up the phone. Then she started laughing. Tang Yin didn't get to ask what was going on before Yushu hung up. It made her feel a little uncomfortable. Lin Yi really went to shower with Meng Yao? Tang Yin had always felt that the relationship between Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu wasn't as simple as an employer and employee relationship. Perhaps nothing had happened now. But if this went on, something would happen sooner or later. But Tang Yin didn't want to think about it. She even thought optimistically that if Lin Yi really did have something going on with Meng Yao, it'd be fine as long as she didn't know about it. She didn't know what was going through her mind. Was it because she felt inferior, or was it because she was afraid of losing Lin Yi? Xiao Xiao's words were a lie, but it was a wake-up call for Tang Yin. Love didn't need a reason, and there was no such thing as being rich or poor. But there was always a difference between ideals and reality. Honestly speaking, Tang Yin herself felt that Meng Yao or Guan Xen might be a better match for Lin Yi, and she, on the other hand, had gotten together with Lin Yi by accident. She couldn't help Lin Yi at all, no matter what he did. She'd always be a bystander, and she'd even drag him down with her. Once this feeling formed, it would take root and grow, making Tang Yin worry more and more. She didn't want to ask Lin Yi anything, and she didn't dare to. Yushu's words were 80% fake. But sometimes, knowing that it was fake still made her worried. Tang Yin picked up her phone and hesitated for a long while before dialing a number in the contact book. Do. After the call connected, it rang many times, but no one answered. Tang Yin silently pressed the hang-up button and put the phone aside. She fell onto the bed, hugging the pillow in her arms as she stared at the wall in a daze. After a while, Tang Yin's phone beeped. It was a text notification. Tang Yin was spacing out when she received a text. She looked at her phone and saw that it was a text from Meng Yao. I was taking a shower just now. What's the matter? Tang Yin was shocked. Was Meng Yao really taking a shower? Tang Yun felt as if her heart had been broken into pieces at this moment. It hurt a little, but then she thought about it. If Meng Yao really was showering with Lin Yi, then why would she tell her? How good would it be to hide it from him? But Tang Yin couldn't see Meng Yao's expression, so she didn't know if this message was a show of force. The tone of the message was calm, and she couldn't see any emotions in it. This was the Miss style. Tang Yin wanted to make a call to confirm, but she didn't dare. She was afraid that her guess would become reality if she called, but she couldn't be at ease if she didn't call. After a long time of hesitation, Tang Yin sighed and put the phone aside. She buried her head in the blanket, tears falling down her cheeks. Meng Yao sent a text to Tang Yin, but Tang Yin didn't reply for a long time. She found it strange, so she called Tang Yin back. After all, the three of them had a good relationship. Meng Yao shook her head when she heard the sound of the phone being turned off. Maybe Tang Yin's phone was out of battery, or maybe she called the wrong number. She didn't think too much about it, so she put the phone aside and dried her hair with a towel. It was a quiet night, and Lin Yi realized that he left his phone in the living room the next morning. He looked at his phone and saw no missed calls, so he didn't think too much about it and went to prepare breakfast for the Miss and Yushu. Faubert came to pick up the Miss and Yushu, and Lin Yi drove Yushu's beetle to the hospital to pick up Tang Yin. Tang Yin stood at the entrance of the hospital, feeling nervous. She didn't know if Lin Yi would come to pick her up like usual, and she didn't know if she would ask Lin Yi about what happened yesterday. So she didn't even eat breakfast and spent the whole morning in anxiety. But the moment Tang Yin saw Lin Yi, all the unhappiness disappeared. Seeing the smile on Lin Yi's face, Tang Yin smiled as well. He still loved her, so why didn't she believe him? Why did she have to worry about something that could happen, but was bound to happen? Tang Yin shook her head and quickly ran to Lin Yi with her bag. Why are your eyes red? Didn't you sleep well last night? Lin Yi opened the car door for Tang Yin and looked at her strangely. Lin Yi was a part-time doctor, and he was good at observing people. I hit a mosquito in the middle of the night. Tang Yin lied. She couldn't tell Lin Yi that she cried until midnight, could she? That would be too embarrassing. Although Lin Yi thought that Tang Yin was lying to him, Lin Yi didn't want to get to the bottom of it if Tang Yin didn't want to tell him. What do you want to eat? Tang Yin heard Lin Yi's question, and she couldn't help but be surprised. What do you want to eat? Breakfast you don't want to eat? Lin Yi smiled. I already ate. Tang Yin wanted to say that she already ate, but looked at Lin Yi's half-smiling eyes and looked down. How do you know that I didn't eat breakfast? Since Lin Yi said that, naturally he had his reasons, so Tang Yin didn't deny it. Usually, Lin Yi wouldn't ask her this question, and after picking her up, he would go straight to school. I'm a doctor. I can see through your body, Lin Yi said. You can see through things. Tang Yin looked at Lin Yi's eyes and blushed. That's not true. Lin Yi shook his head. I'm just giving an example. You didn't eat anything, and I can see it from your complexion. This is the look, listen, question, and feel of traditional Chinese medicine. It's the look, listen, ask, and feel. Oh. Tang Yin thought that Lin Yi could see through things, and she was shocked. Although she would show it to him sooner or later, it would feel weird if someone could see through things. Let's go eat something first. Lin Yi started the car and started looking for a breakfast stall on the street. I don't think so. We'll be late for school. Tang Yin was worried. Chapter 873. No one answered. Tang Yin was speechless, but a question came to her mind. Right, Mr. Wang. Why does he look like he's scared of you? This was something Tang Yin couldn't understand. She used to think that Lin Yi was some rich young master, and that Jifeng didn't dare offend him. But now that Lin Yi's identity was revealed, he was just Meng Yao's bodyguard. Why would Wang Jifeng be scared of him? He wouldn't even give face to the nephew of the school board, Zhong Pingyang, right? Ah, I caught him hitting on a girl in school. Lin, he didn't hide it. Ah, Tang Yin's eyes went wide. Hitting on a girl? Him? In school? I think it was his lover? One of the teachers in school. Lin Yi shrugged. I just happened to see it and he felt guilty. I see. Tang Yin didn't know what to say. It was because of this that Wang Jifeng dared to hit on her in school. She wondered if she should thank Wang Jifeng for that. If Lin Yi hadn't caught him, Lin Yi wouldn't have dared to do that. Let's go eat first. Lin Yi stopped the car in front of a breakfast shop and pulled Tang Yin out of the car. Yao yao, the school ran out of red ink. Should we buy another bottle? Yushu asked Meng Yao, as if she had thought of something all of a sudden. Oh, let's get one then. Meng Yao nodded before turning to Faubert. Faubert, there's a culture store nearby. Please stop the car. We want to buy a bottle of red ink. Okay, Miss Chu. Faubert nodded. There were a lot of exams in grade 12. There was a big exam every 3 days and a small exam every 2 days. However, most of the exams were graded by the students. This was because the teachers didn't have much free time to grade the papers. So, they messed up the papers and distributed them to the students. The teachers explained the answers to each question. Meng Yao's papers had been graded by Lin Yi before, but the two weren't that close back then. Red ink was a necessity in 12th grade, and since Yushu said they were out of red ink, Meng Yao naturally had to buy another. Faubert parked the car in front of a culture store, and Meng Yao and Yushu went to buy the red ink. Faubert was about to start the car when 2 black Land Rovers blocked Faubert's Bentley, stopping him from moving. Faubert was startled, and his guard went up. The 2 Land Rovers were obviously doing this on purpose. Otherwise, they wouldn't have stopped like this. Miss Chu, be careful, contact Mr. Lin. Years of experience told Faubert that there was a hint of danger. As expected, the doors of the 2 Land Rovers opened in an instant, and a tall man in white came out of the Land Rover in front, while 2 men in black came out of the Land Rover behind. Each of them had their right hand on their belt, and after getting out of the car, they stood on the left and right sides of the Bentley. Uncle Fu locked the carriage door and took a deep breath. The 2 black-clothed men in the back were nothing to be afraid of, but the white-clothed man in the front made Uncle Fu feel an unprecedented pressure. However, the man in white didn't seem to care about the locked car door at all. He reached for the door, and with a bang, the door was pulled down by the man in white. One had to know that the doors of a Bentley were extraordinarily sturdy, especially Pingzhan's car, which was made to be bulletproof. Who would have thought that the man in white would be able to destroy it so easily? Faubert's expression froze. As expected, the man in white didn't come with good intentions, and he must be a practitioner, at least above the middle phase of the golden class. The door was pulled down by the man in white, and naturally Faubert couldn't sit in the car anymore. For a master like him, doing so was equivalent to waiting for death. This man was a huge threat to him, and he couldn't protect Meng Yao even if he wanted to. Faubert had no choice but to get out of the car, hoping that he could buy some time for Meng Yao and Yushu to call Lin Yi. However, since the front door was opened by the man in white, the 2 men in black easily unlocked the door from the front and opened the back door directly. They took out 2 black guns from their waists, one for each of them, and pointed them at Meng Yao and Yushu. Hand over the phone. The man in black glared at Meng Yao and Yushu coldly. Okay. Yushu handed over the phone obediently. She knew that she shouldn't fight when the odds were against her, and she didn't say anything, knowing that these 2 were not joking around. Meng Yao was about to call Lin Yi, but it seemed like she couldn't do it anymore. She handed the phone to the man in black helplessly, but she dialed Lin Yi's number and didn't hang up. The man in black took Meng Yao's phone, looked at it, and quickly hung up. He turned off the phone and looked at Meng Yao coldly. Don't think you're so smart. Get out of the car and get into the car at the back. Lin Yi was having breakfast with Tang Yin when he received Ming Yao's call. The Mrs. phone rang twice, and before Lin Yi could pick it up, the other side hung up. This surprised Lin Yi, and he called back, only to hear that the phone was turned off. Was there no electricity? Lin Yi didn't think much about it. After all, Ming Yao was sent to school by Faubert every day. Lin Yi didn't have to worry about it. What's wrong? Tang Yin asked when she saw that Lin Yi didn't get through. It's nothing. The miss just called and hung up after a couple of rings. I called back, but her phone was turned off. Lin Yi shrugged. Maybe it's out of battery. Oh. Tang Yun pouted when she heard that it was the miss, and she didn't say anything else. She was a little disappointed. What's wrong? Lin Yi saw that Tang Yun seemed to be depressed, so he asked. It's nothing. Tang Yun shook her head. Did something happen to the miss? Why don't you call Yushu? Lin Yi thought about it, and it made sense. If he couldn't get through to Ming Yao's phone, then he would call Yushu. He dialed Yushu's number, but Yushu's phone was turned off as well. Lin Yi frowned, and he felt that something was wrong. It was possible that Ming Yao's phone ran out of battery, but how could both Ming Yao and Yushu's phones run out of battery? There was no signal on the road from the villa to school, so it couldn't be caused by a lack of signal. Chapter 874. Unscathed Faubert's phone was on the dashboard of the Bentley, and Faubert couldn't pick it up when he heard it ringing. The white-clothed man was giving him a lot of pressure, and he didn't dare move recklessly. Who are you people? Why do you want to capture Miss Chu and Shu? Faubert looked at the white-clothed man and asked. Although he was staring at the white-clothed man, his eyes were focused on the two men in black, Ming Yao and Yushu. Stand here obediently and wait for us to leave. I won't hurt you. The white-clothed man didn't answer Faubert's question. Instead, he spoke arrogantly. Faubert frowned. There was no point in asking since the man didn't want to say anything. The only thing Faubert needed to do now was to stop these people from taking Ming Yao and Yushu away. So he had to deal with the white-clothed man first. The two men in black didn't pose much of a threat to Faubert. They were just two normal people with slightly stronger bodies. It would be a piece of cake to deal with them. And so Faubert moved. He raised his right hand and sent a palm towards the white-clothed man. It was a feint, however. He wanted to force the white-clothed man back and turn around to save Ming Yao and Yushu. Faubert didn't know the strength of the white-clothed man at the moment, and he didn't want to fight him head-on. As long as he could force the white-clothed man back, it would save him some time. He watched as the two men in black forced Ming Yao and Yushu into the rover behind him. And Li Fu calculated the time he'd be able to take care of the two men in black as soon as he could after the white man backed off. Steal the rover and drive away. But, as the saying goes, a person's plan can never be overpowered. Faubert thought that he would be able to force the white-clothed man back with one palm, but he didn't think that the white-clothed man wouldn't dodge at all. Instead, a cold, mocking smile flashed across his face. This smile made Faubert's heart tighten. He had already realized that something was wrong. If this white-robed man's strength didn't far surpass his, and had already reached the point of ignoring his palm, then he was a fool who didn't know what the consequences of this palm would be. Of course, Faubert did not think that this man in white was a fool. He did not believe that this man in white would not investigate his strength before doing this. Bang! Faubert's palm landed solidly on the white-robed man's body. Faubert practiced external martial arts, so how domineering was this palm? Even the recoil made Faubert's palms numb. But the man in white seemed to be completely fine as he looked at Faubert indifferently. Finished? Does it feel good? The white-clothed man looked at Uncle Fu in ridicule. Bang! So loud! Faubert was not in the mood to joke around with the white-clothed man. His heart was filled with shock. With this palm, even if the opponent was a mystic class master, there was no way he would be unscathed, right? Even if he wasn't heavily injured, he would definitely be sent flying. But this white-clothed man was completely fine, and he was even talking and laughing. This person, just how strong was he? Could it be that he had surpassed the mystic class? But it was impossible, right? Earth-class masters in this common world were almost extinct. You are from Houseu. This was the only possibility that Faubert could think of. The only people he had offended recently were Houseu. Faubert did not think that this man in front of him was sent by Zhao Qibing. If House Zhao was willing to send out masters, they wouldn't have waited until now. If they wanted to send, they would have done it long ago, and Lin, you wouldn't have destroyed their building twice. Houseu, you have enmity with Houseu? The white-clothed man smiled faintly. It seems that you have quite a lot of enemies, but unfortunately I am not one. Then you are. Faubert knew that he was definitely going to die today. Li Fu, right? A physical master with the strength of the peak of the late phase of the golden class. The white-clothed man looked at Faubert and said faintly, "You are still not my opponent, but it is impolite not to reciprocate. I gave you a chance. I told you to wait for us to leave, but you didn't listen, so you can die now." As the white-clothed man spoke, he quickly raised his hand and slapped Faubert's chest. Faubert didn't even have time to dodge, and he was sent flying. Fast, it was too fast. Faubert felt that his chest had been smashed by the white-clothed man. An intense pain made Faubert realize the strength of this person, the peak of the middle phase of the mystic class. But there was one thing that Faubert couldn't understand. Even if the opponent was a peak of the mid-phase of the mystic class, how could he be unscathed from his attack? Faubert's body landed heavily on the ground, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Faubert knew that he probably couldn't make it. A palm from a peak of the mid-phase of the mystic class wasn't something that a peak of the late phase of the golden class like him could take. If the opponent had the intention to kill him, how could he survive? You. How? How are you unscathed? Faubert clutched his chest and looked at the unscathed man in shock. Faubert! Miss cried. She saw with her own eyes how Faubert was sent flying by the white-clothed man, and he fell to the ground and spat out blood. Yushu was also shocked, and she looked at the scene in front of her dumbly. She didn't know what to do. These two girls had never experienced something like this before. Even when they met the robbers in the bank, it wasn't this bloody because they had Lin Yi's protection. Shut up. The black-clothed man heard Meng Yao scream, and he took out a towel and waved it in front of Meng Yao and Yushu, and the two fainted immediately. Drive. He ordered the driver after making Meng Yao and Yushu unconscious. Not waiting for Master Ma? The driver asked. Master Jun said that Master Ma will go by himself, and we will go first. The black-clothed man said, "Okay." The driver nodded and started the car, and the Land Rover quickly left the scene, disappearing from the intersection in the blink of an eye. Faubert looked at the Land Rover in despair, and he spat out a mouthful of turbid air. He looked at the white-clothed man with blurred eyes. He couldn't hold on any longer. "Do you know why I left you alive?" The white-clothed man lowered his head and looked at Faubert with a condescending gaze, and said coldly, "I will let you die knowing that I'm here to answer your questions." Faubert didn't say anything, and he didn't want to waste his breath. He just hoped that Lin Yi would find out as soon as possible and save Meng Yao and Yushu. "My name is Ma Zhu, and I've cultivated the Golden Bell Shield. I've already broken through the 8th level, and I'm invulnerable." The man in white said proudly, "Killing you is like killing an ant. Ha 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 ha." Chapter 875. News from Lingshan. The whole process didn't even take 10 minutes. Faubert felt his mind getting blurry as he listened to Ma Zhu's laughter. The police siren sounded, and the police car and ambulance arrived at the same time. One had to admit that their response speed was quite fast, but Ma Zhu was just a little faster. The owner of the store called the police, and he was shocked by the scene just now. He didn't hear the conversation between Ma Zhu and Faubert, but Ma Zhu sending Faubert flying with one slap was like watching a movie to a normal person. It was unbelievable. Organs and ribs were shattered, and there was basically no hope. This was the conclusion of the paramedics, and they couldn't send him to the hospital in time. They could only do emergency treatment in the ambulance. Ling Shan was the second to arrive. The ones who'd been dispatched were the patrol officers, but seeing that it was a vicious kidnapping and assault case, they'd immediately notified the criminal police. "How is it?" Ling Shan got out of the car and ran over quickly. "Captain Song, it was the owner of the store who called the police. He's the witness, and according to his testimony, the whole case is a kidnapping case." One of the patrol officers reported to Ling Shan immediately, giving her the details of the case. "Did you find out the identity of the hostage and the injured?" Ling Shan asked after listening to the case. According to the license plate number left at the scene, the Bentley belongs to Pengzhan Industries, and the driver, the injured one, is the driver of the chairman of Pengzhan Industries, Li Fu. According to his identity, the hostage should be Meng Yao and Yu Shu, the patrol officer said. "What, Meng Yao and Yu Shu?" Ling Shan's eyes widened. Of course. What surprised her wasn't the identity of the hostage, but the injured Li Fu. She knew that Li Fu was Pengzhan's driver and bodyguard, and Li Fu's strength was recorded by the police. He was a late phase, golden, class peak physical practitioner. So how could he be so heavily injured that he couldn't even hold on anymore? What kind of strength did the kidnapper have? And according to the witness, the owner of the store was the one who sent Faubert flying with one palm. That person was at least a mystic class master. When did such a powerful master come to Songshan? Why did he kidnap Meng Yao and Yu Shu? But Lin Yi was Meng Yao and Yu Shu's bodyguard, so the first person Ling Shan thought of was Lin Yi. She had to inform Lin Yi about this as soon as possible, even if she didn't have a good impression of Meng Yao and Yu Shu. These two girls were always going against her, but that was business and that was personal. Ling Shan was very clear about that. And so, Ling Shan sent Lu Wangli to notify Pengzhan while she called Lin. When Lin Yi contacted Faubert and realized that no one picked up the phone, he felt even more uneasy. Miss and Shu's phones were both turned off, and Faubert wasn't picking up either. What did this mean? It meant that something must have happened to the three of them. Faubert isn't picking up either. Lin Yi frowned and said to Tang Yin, "You, hurry up and go take a look. Don't let anything happen." Tang Yin hesitated and said, "Then take your breakfast and eat in the car." Lin Yi was also very worried about Meng Yao's safety. In theory, with Faubert there, nothing could happen to Meng Yao, but there was always an accident. What if another master like Yu Kuan came? "Don't worry about me, I won't go. I'll go to school myself after eating." Tang Yin shook her head. She knew that now wasn't the time to be jealous. If something really happened to Meng Yao and Yu Shu, she would be a hindrance to Lin Yi if she followed him. So, Tang Yin didn't want to cause trouble. Okay. Lin Yi smiled at Tang Yin. He was very grateful for her understanding and held her hand. "Be careful." "What do I have to be careful about?" "Just be careful." Tang Yin would be fine if she went to school alone, but she was worried that something might happen to Lin Yi. "I'll be careful." Lin Yi nodded and walked out of the breakfast shop quickly. He drove to the road from the villa to school. He wanted to find Meng Yao and Yu Shu along this road. Lin Yi's phone rang not long after the car left the area. Lin Yi looked at the caller ID. It was Ling Shan. "Hello. What's the matter?" Lin Yi was worried about Meng Yao and Yu Shu's safety, so he didn't have the mood to talk to Ling Shan. "Lin Yi, Meng Yao and Yu Shu are in trouble. They've been kidnapped, and Li Fu is heavily injured. He's in the emergency room now, but I'm afraid that he's in trouble." Ling Shan didn't mind Lin Yi's tone. She was used to Lin Yi's tone. As expected, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Something had happened. He didn't think that Ling Shan would respond this quickly. She was probably at the scene already. It had only been 10 minutes since Ming Yao's call. Where are you now? I'll be there immediately. Have you notified Uncle Chu? Lin Yi asked. I've already notified Chairman Chu, Ling Shan said. I'm at the Jedian Circuit, in front of the Mingliang Culture Shop. You'll see it when you get there. There's a lot of police cars there, and they've set up a cordon. All right, I'll be there immediately. Lin Yi hung up and accelerated the car to the max. There were a lot of cars on the road in the morning, but Lin Yi used the beetle's small size and skillful driving skills to weave through the traffic like a beetle. Lin Yi didn't slow down at all, going on the bus lane, going on the wrong lane, going on the sidewalk. Under the condition that his safety was guaranteed, Lin Yi had broken all the traffic rules he could. But Lin Yi didn't care about that anymore. Peng Zhan would pay the fine later. Meng Yao and Yushu's safety was his #1 priority. Of course, other than that, Lin Yi was worried about Faubert the most. After all, the Miss and Shu's situation could be delayed, but Faubert's injuries couldn't be delayed. Lin Yi wanted to drive the car like it was a plane. Finally, Lin Yi arrived at the Jedian Circuit within 5 minutes. A few police cars with flashing lights were parked on the side of the road. A group of police officers had set up a cordon to prevent pedestrians from getting close. Lin Yi quickly drove the car over, parked it next to the police line, and got out of the car. Chapter 876. Chapter 0875. Faubert's injuries. Ling Shan told me to come, Lin Yi said to the officer. He took out his phone to call Ling Shan when he saw Lu Wangli not far away. Lu Wangli, Lin Yi called out immediately. The officer saw that Lin Yi not only knew Ling Shan's name, but he also knew Lu Wangli. It was obvious that Ling Shan had asked him to come, and so he didn't stop him. Seeing Lu Wangli walk over, the officer went back to his own business. Lin Yi, you're here. Captain Song is over there. Lu Wangli pointed at a direction not far away. Where's Faubert? Bring me there. Lin Yi wasn't in a rush to find Ling Shan. He was worried about Faubert's injuries. Ling Shan said that Faubert was heavily injured, and that he might not make it. This made Lin Yi a little worried, or else he wouldn't be driving so fast. Over here. Lu Wangli saw that Lin Yi was in such a rush, and his expression turned serious as well. He wasn't angry at Lin Yi's commanding tone, because he knew that Lin Yi was probably involved in the big cases that the police had cracked recently. Plus, Lin Yi and Ling Shan's relationship was very strange, and Lu Wangli had pretty much treated Lin Yi as Ling Shan's boyfriend. Lin Yi saw Faubert on the stretcher, and his face darkened. From the outside, Faubert's condition didn't look too good. Leave this place to me. Everyone go back and rest. Lin Yi walked over and said to the medical staff, who were busy with the work. The medical staff didn't know who Lin Yi was, and they looked at Lin Yi curiously when they heard him, but they didn't leave. You guys go back. He can handle it here. Lu Wangli knew that Lin Yi wasn't simple, so he spoke up to help Lin Yi. I'm sorry, officer. It's our duty to save lives and help the injured. We can't leave until we receive orders from our superiors. A leading medic walked over and said to Lu Wangli, Are you from the First People's Hospital or the Second People's Hospital? I'll talk to your dean. Lin Yi was anxious. It wasn't that Lin Yi didn't trust these medical staff, but they couldn't save Faubert at all. First People's Hospital. The medic didn't hide anything. He wasn't sure of Lin Yi's identity, but he couldn't leave without his superior's order. Lin Yi quickly dialed Guan Shuamin's number and told him what had happened. He then asked for the medical staff's number. When the nurse heard that Lin Yi was calling Guan Shuamin, she was stunned and asked, May I ask if you're calling Guan Shuamin? Yes. Do you know him? Lin Yi was delighted and asked, Which doctor in Songshan doesn't know Professor Guan? The doctor said, Are you someone recommended by Professor Guan? Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. He directly passed the phone to the medical staff and said, "I'm Guan, Xuemin's disciple. Leave this to me. Elder Guan will explain to you." The medical staff picked up the phone and nodded after hearing Guan Xuemin's words. Guan Xuemin told him that Lin Yi was his disciple. Leave this to Lin Yi and he would immediately call Dean Qin. The medical staff was relieved after hearing Guan Xuemin's words. Not long after hanging up the phone, the dean called. "Dean Qin, hello. I'm Xiao Lu." The medical staff quickly picked up the phone. Okay, I understand. We will definitely cooperate with Dr. Lin Yi." Dean Qin called and told him to try his best to fulfill Lin Yi's request and help Lin Yi save the patient. With the dean's words, Xiao Lu naturally didn't have to worry about anything. Lin Yi bent down and checked on Falbert's injuries. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. Indeed, Falbert was still alive. However, it wasn't because the opponent wasn't strong enough to kill Falbert. The opponent did it on purpose to leave Falbert alive. Judging from Fu Bo's injuries, the other party should have only used one move. In other words, the other party's strength was far greater than Fu Bo's. So, if the other party wanted to take Fu Bo's life, it should be a piece of cake. However, the opponent didn't do it because he didn't want Falbert to die. He probably said a few words to Falbert after he used the move. However, the most likely reason was to let Lin Yi heal Falbert's injuries. This would cause Lin Yi's strength to drop by a level. To save or not to save? Lin Yi hesitated for a moment. Emotionally speaking, Falbert treated him well. Ever since he came to Songshan, Falbert had always been kind to him and treated him like a member of the mansion. Therefore, Lin Yi didn't want anything to happen to Falbert. However, logically speaking, Lin Yi knew that using his energy to heal Falbert wasn't a smart move. The opponent had a master. If he used his energy to heal Falbert, then his strength would definitely be affected. If that happened, he might not even be able to save Meng Yao and Yushu. Although the energy could be easily obtained from the Jade Space, it still needed time. Lin Yi didn't know if he could make it in time. Lin Yi gritted his teeth. He had to save Falbert first. At least before there was news of Meng Yao and Yushu, he couldn't leave them to die. A few silver needles appeared in Lin Yi's hands. He quickly inserted them into a few acupoints on Falbert's body. He then started the art of dragon mastery. This time, it was similar to when he healed Lu Buijia. Lin Yi used the silver needles to seal a few of Falbert's meridians. Lin Yi planned to use his energy to prolong Falbert's life first, but he didn't plan to directly heal him, because Lin Yi knew very well how terrifying the amount of energy needed to heal a person who was on the verge of death was. He was afraid that after he healed Falbert, he would enter automatic sleep mode. Doing this now was undoubtedly very dangerous. Right now, Lin Yi could only use a small portion of his energy to prolong Falbert's life. As long as he stayed alive, Lin Yi would have time to heal him after everything was over. But whether or not Falbert's martial arts could be preserved was another matter. A physical practitioner with such a serious injury was probably completely crippled. Although Lin Yi could use his energy to create a golden class dog, he couldn't use it to create a golden class master. The amount of energy required for a human and a dog was worlds apart. Creating a golden class dog would force Lin Yi into hibernation mode, let alone a golden class master. If it were possible, Xiao Xiao would have been a golden class master a long time ago. Chapter 877. The Target, Fu. Lin Yi breathed out in relief. Falbert's life was safe. Whether or not he could recover his strength wasn't something Lin Yi cared about. This was all Lin Yi could do. Even so, Lin Yi was sweating profusely. He'd used up quite a bit of energy. After all, that palm strike was enough to take Falbert's life. Lin Yi hadn't healed Faubert completely, but that was only the body and bones. Lin Yi had to use his energy to repair the organs. Otherwise, any damage to any organ would be enough to take Faubert's life. If it weren't for Faubert's extraordinary physique, a normal person wouldn't be able to hold on until now. Lin Yi wiped the sweat off his forehead and raised his head to see Ling Shan and Ping Zhan already there, looking at him anxiously. Ling Shan had seen Lin Yi heal before, and after she arrived, she sent everyone around Lin Yi away, sending Lu Wanli and his platoon to protect Lin Yi, preventing anyone from disturbing Lin Yi. "Yi, how is it?" Peng Zhan's face was very serious, his eyebrows furrowed. He was worried about his daughter's safety, but he was also worried about Faubert's injuries. "His life is safe, but I can't say if he'll be able to recover his strength. After all, Faubert is a physical practitioner, and his body was damaged to this extent." Lin Yi shrugged. His energy could only restore the damaged parts to their original state, as if he'd been reborn, but he couldn't make Faubert's body and bones return to their original state. That was something that could only be achieved after a long period of training, and it wasn't something that Lin Yi's energy could change. It wasn't like the qi of a spiritual practitioner, which could be replenished through energy conversion. This was the biggest difference between a spiritual practitioner and a physical practitioner. Once the meridians of an inner force expert were destroyed, the true qi in their body would not be able to be preserved, and they would become a cripple. On the other hand, once a physical expert's body suffered a serious injury, even if he healed, his body would not be able to return to its previous state. He would basically be no different from a normal person. "It's fine as long as you're alive." Ping Zhan let out a sigh of relief. It didn't matter if Faubert could recover his strength or not, as long as he could survive. Ping Zhan and Faubert may be master and servant in name, but they'd been together for so many years. Humans weren't plants or trees, so how could they be emotionless? The relationship between him and Faubert was more or less that of an old friend. Even if he had to go bankrupt, he'd still want Faubert to live. "How are Yao Yao and Shu? Any news?" Lin Yi's face was a little pale. Healing Faubert had obviously used up a lot of his stamina, and he wasn't suited for battle in this state. However, the situation was urgent, and he couldn't afford to rest. The 2 Aurora SUVs that the kidnappers drove were all fake, and they used the license plate of a car rental company in Donghai. After checking through the POS machine, the original car model was a Honda CR-V, and we can't confirm the identity of the kidnappers at the moment. Lu Wanli told him what he had found out from the investigation. The kidnappers are very cunning. They should have a strong anti-tracking ability. Only a few cameras on the main roads captured the 2 cars. After that, they disappeared. There are 2 possibilities. One is that the kidnappers changed cars, and the other is that the kidnappers intentionally avoided some cameras when they arrived at their destination. Ping Zhan nodded and sighed softly. He didn't even know who his opponent was this time, and he was completely at his wits' end. After hearing Lu Wanli's words, he couldn't help but turn to look at Lin Yi, hoping that he could give him an idea. "Uncle Chu, since the kidnappers kidnapped Yao Yao and Shu, they must have a purpose. I believe that they will contact us first." Lin Yi sighed and said, "If the kidnappers didn't want to use Yao Yao and Shu for some purpose, they wouldn't have kidnapped them. If it was just a grudge, then they would have been killed on the spot like Faubert." "Yeah, but they're both girls." Peng Zhan actually thought of the same thing. Since the kidnappers kidnapped his daughter and Shu, they must be trying to use them for some purpose. But he was afraid that the kidnappers would be tempted. Instead of being troubled here, why don't we go back and wait for the kidnappers' call? Lin Yi suggested. He needed to continue sleeping for a while to replenish his stamina. Otherwise, even if there was news of the kidnappers, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to fight them. Okay, Ping Zhan was no longer the high-spirited chairman of a company, but an anxious father. He didn't have any ideas, but since Lin Yi suggested to go back and wait, there was nothing else he could do. Ling Shan didn't stop him because she knew that if Lin Yi couldn't solve the problem, There was no point for her to be anxious. Since Lin Yi wanted to go back, then let him go. As for Faubert, Lin Yi didn't send him to the hospital. Instead, he asked Lu to send him to the villa. Lin Yi had Faubert's injuries under control. As long as Faubert didn't get injured again, his condition wouldn't worsen. At this moment, only Lin Yi, Pingzhan, and Faubert were left in the villa, along with General Weiwu, the golden class dog. Are we just going to wait for the kidnappers to contact us? Pingzhan looked at his watch anxiously. It had been more than an hour, and the kidnappers hadn't called yet. It made him restless. Other than that, I can't think of any better ideas. Lin Yi sighed as well. The most important thing is that I need to rest. I used up quite a bit of qi to control Uncle Fu's injuries, and I'm afraid that this is a trap set up by the enemy, leaving Uncle Fu alive on purpose to exhaust my strength. Lin Yi sighed as well. Pingzhan's face stiffened when he heard Lin Yi's words. He didn't think so much before, but after hearing what Lin Yi said, he felt that it was very possible. He quickly said, Go rest, I'll wait for the kidnapper's call. No need, it's fine on the sofa, Lin Yi said and closed his eyes, entering into a state of fake sleep. Lin Yi didn't sleep soundly. After entering the jade space, he still knew what was happening outside. Although Lin Yi entered the jade space and tried his best to absorb the energy in the space, his brain didn't rest at all. He kept guessing who the kidnappers were. According to the sequence of events, Lin Yi locked onto two people. One was House Yu's Yu Kuin, and the other was Zhan Yingjun. Chapter 878. The kidnappers' demands with House Yu's style of doing things. They should be here for revenge. Why did they kidnap Meng Yao and Yushu? After killing Faubert, they should be here for him. However, the kidnappers didn't do that. So, Lin Yi thought for a long time and crossed out the possibility of House Yu, leaving only Zhan Yingjun. Although Lin Yi didn't know Zhan Yingjun's background, if Zhan Yingjun could really find such a master to help him, he might be able to do what he did. Firstly, although Zhan Yingjun had a grudge against him, the grudge wasn't with him, but with Meng Yao and Yushu. Meng Yao and Yushu were the ones who made him lose face in the billiard room. Although he helped them secretly, Zhan Yingjun didn't know that. After that, at the door of the billiard room, although he was the one who punished him, the one who asked him to punish him was Yushu. So, if the kidnappers were Zhan Yingjun's men, everything would be explained. However, Lin Yi felt uneasy when he thought that the kidnappers were Zhan Yingjun. Zhan Yingjun had been drooling over Meng Yao and Yushu for a long time. Would he do anything to them after this kidnapping? Lu Wangli's deduction was correct. The kidnappers had changed their car in a secluded place. Two identical Land Rovers on the road was simply too eye-catching, and it would easily attract the attention of the police. So, in an empty alley, the man in black and Ma Zhu brought Meng Yao and Yushu to an old Toyota Previa that had been prepared. Previa was also called the Tyrant. It was an early model of business car, and there were a lot of them in the market. After changing the car, the group of people didn't stand out and looked very ordinary. As for the two Land Rovers, the people who had contacted them quickly removed the fake license plates and replaced them with real license plates. Each person took one and drove off in two different directions. This way, no one would suspect them anymore. After getting in the car, one of the men in black called Zhan Yingjun, Master Jun, the hostages are in our hands. We changed cars safely. Oh, that's great. Good job, I'll call Pingzhan right now. Zhan Yingjun danced happily when he heard that the plan went smoothly. Oh, right, how's Master Ma? Old Ma has already followed your instructions and didn't completely kill Li Fu. If Lin Yi wants to save him, he will have to expend a large amount of true qi. At that time, his strength will definitely be weakened, and he won't be a threat anymore. The man in black reported. Good, that's great. Come quickly, I can't wait anymore. Zhan Yingjun nodded. Previously, In order to successfully kill Lin Yi, he purposely told Ma Zhu not to kill Faubert and to leave him alive. Isn't Lin Yi a doctor? If he wanted Faubert to live, he would need to expend a large amount of true qi. This was the plan that Zhen Yingjun thought of when Yao Wang treated him. If he used Faubert's injuries to hold Lin Yi back and make Lin use up a large amount of true qi, then no matter how skilled he was, he wouldn't be a match for Ma Zhu and the firearms team. A medical expert would need to use up a large amount of qi to heal someone. This was also proven by Ma Zhu, which was why the previous scene happened. Otherwise, Ma Zhu wouldn't need to tell Uncle Fu so many times that he kept him alive just to clear up his doubts. This was just to confuse Faubert and make him not know his real purpose. Otherwise, Ma Zhu wouldn't have the time to waste with Faubert. Chu Pingzhan sat on the sofa and waited for the kidnapper's call. However, he felt restless and couldn't calm down at all. Chu Pingzhan glanced at Lin Yi, who was resting with his eyes closed, and stood up abruptly. He felt that he had to do something, but after standing up, he didn't know what to do. Although Lin Yi was resting with his eyes closed, he wasn't idling around. He was thinking of a plan in his mind. Zhen Yingjuan's actions had already touched Lin Yi's bottom line. He was thinking that if the kidnappers didn't call after he recovered his strength, then Lin Yi would go straight to House Zhen and dig them out, even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground. Just when Chu Pingzhan stood up, the phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Chu Pingzhan quickly took it out and looked at the caller ID. It was a hidden number with all the numbers 0. "Hello, I'm Chu Pingzhan." Chu Pingzhan was very sure that the caller was the kidnappers. After all, normal people didn't need to hide their numbers when they called. "Hello, Mr. Chu. It's my pleasure to meet you." There was a piercing voice on the other side of the phone. It was obvious that the voice had been changed by a voice changer. The fake politeness made Chu Pingzhan even more uncomfortable. "Who are you? What's the matter?" Chu Pingzhan frowned and asked, "Who I am isn't important. What's important is that you want to know the whereabouts of your daughter and her best friend. I'm an insider. Wahahaha." The person on the phone was unscrupulous and fearless. "My daughter and Shu were kidnapped by you? What do you want?" Chu Pingzhan was completely sure of the identity of the caller. It must be the kidnappers. However, this made Chu Pingzhan feel a little more at ease. As long as the kidnappers were willing to contact him, it was a good thing. Chu Pingzhan wasn't afraid that the kidnappers would give him some conditions. He was afraid that the kidnappers wouldn't accept the conditions and would take his daughter away silently. "Mr. Chu, you're wrong." "What do you mean, I kidnapped them?" "I'm just an insider," the person said shamelessly. "I only heard that Mr. Chu offered a reward of 200 million to anyone who can provide information. Is that true?" Pingzhan was infuriated by the caller. What the hell was this guy trying to do? He wanted a ransom, but he said it was a bounty. Yes. But Chu Pingzhan knew that he shouldn't anger the kidnappers. He could only nod and say, "That's right. You want 200 million? I can give it to you. But you must guarantee the safety of my daughter and Shu. If they are harmed, I won't give you the money." Chapter 879. Another 50 million indeed. Zhen Dazhou had investigated Pingzhan Industries and Pingzhan's personal assets, and the amount he was asking for was within the limits of what Pingzhan could accept. He only wanted cash, not shares or real estate, since he couldn't sell them at all. Wouldn't he be waiting for the police to catch him? He wasn't an idiot. "Mr. Chu, I'm just a good Samaritan, and I can only guarantee that your daughter and her best friend come back alive. As for whether or not they get hurt, that's not my concern. That's what the kidnappers do." The caller said shamelessly, not afraid of Pingzhan's threat at all. Pingzhan's heart froze. He was afraid that his daughter and Shu would be harmed by the kidnappers, and it was highly likely that they would do that. Pingzhan gripped the phone tightly, his body trembling. "How can I not hurt Yao Yao and Shu? I can give you however much you want. Oh, it seems like you don't want to work with me anymore, Mr. Chu. The caller changed the topic with a cold smile. All right then, just wait to collect your daughter's and her best friend's bodies. Wait. Pingzhan sighed. It seemed like his daughter and Shu coming back alive was already a blessing, and he couldn't care less about the humiliation. It wasn't something his daughter and Shu wanted, and it was fine as long as they didn't make it public. It was better than dying. Oh, did you change your mind again, Mr. Chu? The caller seemed to know that Pingzhan would change his mind and continue the conversation. All right, I promise you, but please don't hurt them. If possible, I'll think of a way to give you another 50 million as compensation, Pingzhan said. I, Pingzhan, am a man of my word. You can ask around in the business world about my trustworthiness. I'm a man of my word. I hope you can trust me. Naturally, I know about your trustworthiness, but this isn't up to me. The caller said faintly. Go get the money now. I'll call you later and tell you how to pay. No problem. I'll prepare it as soon as possible. Pingzhan said. Don't call the police, or your daughter will die a horrible death. The caller reminded Pingzhan. Pingzhan smiled coldly inwardly. Weren't you supposed to be a good Samaritan? I'm not allowed to call the police again? Did he finally give himself away? But Pingzhan, naturally, wouldn't say what he was thinking. He didn't want to provoke the criminal. Don't worry, it won't happen. In actuality, Pingzhan didn't plan on calling the police. There was obviously a master on the other side, and the police's involvement would only anger them. Even if they managed to save his daughter in the end, they might not be able to stop the master. What would they do in the future? This would definitely provoke these people to retaliate even more crazily. The next time, it wouldn't be as simple as kidnapping. Perhaps he would be directly killed like Faubert. Lin Yi's phone rang not long after Pingzhan hung up. Lin Yi had been training in the Jade space, but he could still hear the conversation between Pingzhan and the kidnappers. He didn't say anything, however, because he wanted to make the most of every second he had to recover his strength. Now that his phone was ringing, Lin Yi could only return to reality from the training space. He picked up the phone, thinking that it was also the kidnappers, but it was Ling Shan's number. Hello? Any news? Lin Yi asked. We've already monitored Mr. Pingzhan's phone, and we've heard the call from the kidnappers, but we didn't manage to locate them. The call came from a foreign IP phone server. Ling Shan said, a little regretful. Do you need us to do anything? Not at the moment. I can handle it myself. They obviously have a master, and you're not their match. Lin Yi rejected Ling Shan's help. Ling Shan wasn't too happy with the words, you're not his opponent. But she understood that she really wasn't his opponent. She and Faubert were evenly matched. One was a late-phase, golden-class spiritual practitioner, and the other was a late-phase, golden-class peak physical practitioner. If they really fought, they should be evenly matched. But the kidnappers could injure Faubert with one palm. Ling Shan would probably end up the same if she went. Then, be careful. Miss Dummy is cheering for you. Ling Shan didn't know why, but she was a little worried. He pressured her so much, and she was actually worried for him? Ling Shan didn't understand her own thoughts either. Okay. Lin Yi hung up. The reason why Songshan was called Songshan was because there were many mountains nearby, other than Shuangyan Mountain that was developed into a tourist attraction. Some of the steeper mountains weren't developed. Normally, no one would go up there. Among these steep mountains, there was one called South Mirror Mountain. Of course, this was a common name given to the mountain by the locals. As for the geographical name of the mountain, almost no one could say for sure. Even the name of this mountain might not be on the map. The reason why South Mirror Mountain was called South Mirror Mountain was because it was located to the south of Songshan. The name Mirror meant that the mountain was very steep and full of rocks. After the rain, it was as smooth as a mirror. In short, there was nothing on the mountain, and normal people wouldn't go up there. Today, there were 2 cars parked at the foot of the mountain. One was a Benz with a Donghai license plate, and the other was a Toyota Previa. On the mountain. Zhang Yingjun just called Pingzhan with a voice changer. He hesitated for a moment. Originally, he wanted to ask Pingzhan for 200 million, play with his daughter and Yushu, and then kill Lin Yi. That would be the end of the debt. However, when he said that Pingzhan would give him another 50 million, he was tempted. That was 50 million. He only spent 40 million on the doctor, and Pingzhan added another 50 million. The condition was that he couldn't hurt Meng Yao and Yushu. Zhang Yingjun would be lying if he said that he wasn't tempted. He was really tempted. What kind of concept was 50 million? 10,000 was enough to find a prostitute, let alone 50 million. It was too much for him to play with Meng Yao and Yushu. Chapter 880. Drool over it, Long Mingyao and Yushu were the best of the best. He had never seen such beautiful girls in Donghai before, and he didn't want to give them up just like that. Fuck, 50 million it was worth it. He would pretend that Pingzhan never said anything. Thinking of this, Zhang Yingjun gritted his teeth and walked towards the cave. After negotiating the price with Pingzhan, it was time for him to enjoy the two beauties. After Meng Yao and Yushu woke up, they realized that their hands and feet were tied up and they were thrown into a cave. The light was dim and they couldn't see clearly. Yao sis, are you awake? Yushu subconsciously called Meng Yao as soon as she woke up. Yes, Meng Yao woke up 10 minutes earlier than Yushu. She was looking around the cave with an indescribable sadness on her face. The scene of Faubert flying out kept appearing in her mind. Meng Yao really hoped that it was just a dream and everything would be over when she woke up, but it wasn't a dream. Where are we? Are we dreaming? Yushu just woke up and was a little dazed. We're not dreaming, we're caught. Meng Yao shook her head and said sadly, I wonder how Faubert is. Is he okay? He should be okay. Don't forget that Shield Bro is a miracle doctor. He can even cure General Weiwu. Yushu was very optimistic. It's not the same. If Lin Yi wants to save Faubert, he'll need a lot of time and use up a lot of pure energy. If he wants to save us now, he can't save Faubert. Meng Yao thought that Lin Yi would save Faubert, but the more she thought about it, the less likely it was, unless Lin Yi didn't care about her and Shu anymore. Ah. Yushu heard Meng Yao's words and started to worry. You guys woke up? That's great. If not, I'll have to wake you up. I don't like unresponsive women. Zhang Yingjun walked into the cave and was surprised to see Meng Yao and Yushu awake. Zhang Yingjun? It's you? So you kidnapped us. Meng Yao was trying to guess who captured them and who had such a deep grudge against them that they wanted to kill Faubert. But she didn't expect it to be Zhang Yingjun. Haha, that's right, it's me. Zhang Yingjun laughed. How is it? You didn't expect this, did you? I didn't expect that. We don't have any deep hatred, do we? Why did you do it? Meng Yao asked. She was trying her best to buy time. She knew that the longer she delayed, the more time Lin Yi would have to save them. No, you made me have a crooked mouth and crippled legs. And you say I don't have a deep hatred for you? The most infuriating thing is that he even did something to my body, causing me to be impotent. Zhang Yingjun was enraged when Meng Yao mentioned the hatred between them. His eyes were filled with anger. Thank God Yao Wang saved me, or I would have become a living eunuch. This was all because I kicked an old lady who was picking up scraps, and what I kicked was the sack in her hands. And you guys let that bastard do this to me? Don't you think this is a deep grudge? Meng Yao and Yushu paused. They knew that Lin Yi had given him a crooked mouth and a limp leg, but they didn't think much of it, thinking that it was just a temporary thing. They didn't know that Lin Yi had given him some sort of impotence. The two couldn't help but blush when they heard the word, since it involved their privacy. However, they didn't let Lin Yi make Zhang Yingjun impotent. Did Lin Yi do it on his own? Even if Lin Yi did it on his own, they didn't blame Lin Yi. After all, Linny did it for them. Then what do you want? Meng Yao didn't dwell on the question and asked directly, "What do I want? My impotence has just been cured, and I'm looking for a girl to test it on. I've been drooling over you two for a long time. So I'll test it on you two today," Zhen Yingjun said fiercely. Ah, Meng Yao was shocked. She didn't expect Zhen Yingjun to do this. She was shocked, angry, and scared at the same time. She looked at Zhen Yingjun. "How dare you? If you do that, the consequences will be severe." Consequences? What consequences can there be? Zhen Yingjun laughed nonchalantly. "I've already called Chu Pingzhan, and even he allowed me to do something to you. As long as I don't kill you, what's there for me to be afraid of? Lin Yi will kill you." Meng Yao wasn't afraid at all. She didn't expect Zhen Yingjun to call her father already. "Yeah, Yao Yao Sis and I are Shield Bro's first and second wives. He will kill you," Yushu added. "Lin Yi is in a precarious situation himself. He will die soon." Although Zhen Yingjun used to be afraid of Lin Yi was already a dead man in his eyes. Under the combined attack of the firearms team and Ma Zhu, Lin Yi had no chance of surviving. Ah, Meng Yao was shocked. She didn't think that Zhen Yingjun was boasting. He must have his reasons. After all, Uncle Fu was severely injured by the master beside him, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. What if the master was stronger than Lin Yi? Then Lin Yi coming here was no doubt a suicide mission. She didn't want Lin Yi to come here anymore. All right, cut the bullshit. Which one of you is going to give yourself first? Zhen Yingjun looked at Meng Yao and Yushu with a lecherous smile. He felt that his lower body was reacting. Haha, Yao Wang was so powerful. He didn't have any reaction when he took Viagra. But after being treated by Zhen Yingjun, he became majestic all of a sudden. "Oh, wait, I need to go to the washroom. You go out first." Yushu suddenly said to Zhen Yingjun, "Washroom." Zhen Yingjun froze. He didn't expect Yushu to want to go to the washroom at this time. He asked subconsciously, "Do you want to go to the washroom?" Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Yushu said, "I also want to go to the washroom." Meng Yao didn't know what Yushu meant, but she knew that Yushu was always weird and had a lot of ideas. She must have her reasons for wanting to go to the washroom at this time. Fuck! What a lazy donkey! Zhen Yingjun was furious. He was in high spirits, and these two wanted to go to the washroom. He had no choice but to say, "Then hurry up! Go out for a while. Otherwise, how can we come out in front of you?" Yushu said. Chapter 881. You win. No, if you don't go out, I can't come out. I will pee my pants. Yushu didn't give up. You. Zhen Yingjun cursed. You win. If Yushu and Meng Yao really peed their pants, how disgusting would that be? There was no place to take a shower in the cave. How was he going to play if they peed their pants? Zhen Yingjun had no choice but to leave the cave. But Yushu called out again, "Hey, how can I go to the washroom with my hands tied up?" Zhen Yingjun cursed Yushu for being a busybody. He walked over, lowered his head, and untied the ropes on Yushu's hands and feet. Under the dim light in the cave, Yushu's blush made her look even more alluring. Zhen Yingjun was tempted, and he wanted to grab her breasts. A girl with a child's face and huge breasts was rare. Just when Zhen Yingjun wanted to have some fun, Yushu said, "Don't touch me. I will pee my pants if you touch me." Huh. Zhen Yingjun was shocked by Yushu's words. His hands that were hanging in the air stopped abruptly. He glared at Yushu. "Why are you so troublesome? Hurry up. You will really pee your pants later." Yushu ignored Zhen Yingjun and continued to rush him. Zhen Yingjun scoffed, stood up, and walked out of the cave. He wanted to peek in from the outside, but the blinding light from the outside was a stark contrast to the darkness in the cave. He couldn't see anything from the outside. It was pitch black. Zhan Yingjun could only give up and go check on the gun team's ambush. He had to make sure that after he lured Lin Yi here, he would shoot Lin Yi to death. However, he couldn't expose his men and raise Lin Yi's vigilance. It was hard to hide in the sparse forest on the mountain, so the gun team could only find a rock to cover themselves and hope that Lin Yi would kill them in one shot. In the cave, Yushu wasn't in a hurry to go to the washroom. She opened her bag first, thinking that the men in black had taken her phone, but not her bag. The bag was still straddling her even when they were tied up. "Shu, what are you doing? Aren't you going to the washroom?" Meng Yao asked. "What for? We didn't even drink water in the morning. I tricked Zhan Yingjun to go out so that we can prepare ourselves." "We can't let him do that," Yushu said as she quickly flipped through her bag. Meng Yao frowned. "You have a way to avoid it?" "Yeah, I don't like him." "Yao Yao sis, you should save your first time for Shield Bro. How can you give it to an idiot like him?" Yushu nodded. "Why am I involved again? You wanted to give it to Lin Yi, didn't you?" Meng Yao didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she glared at Yushu, still in the mood to joke around at a time like this. "Oh, you have to think about it first. I'm the small wife." Yushu suddenly shouted in surprise. "I found it." Meng Yao looked at the thing in Yushu's hands. It was a pack of sanitary napkins. She paused for a moment and understood Yushu's plan, but she was still suspicious. "You want to trick him with this? Will it work? Although that Zhan Yingjun looks dumb, he shouldn't be that easy to trick, right?" "Of course it won't work, but what if I add some spices?" Yushu smiled mischievously as she took out the red ink she'd bought this morning. She opened up 2 sanitary napkins and quickly poured the ink on them before tossing them into a corner of the cave. She then took out a bottle of water and poured it on them, pretending like she'd just taken a shower. Ugh! Meng Yao was a little dumbfounded. Was this even possible? But it did look like it if she didn't look closely. Phew, I'm not done yet. Yushu took out 2 sanitary napkins and poured the fountain water on them before stuffing them into her pants. "Shu, you!" Meng Yao's eyes widened. "That's so much fountain water, it's so dirty." "Yao Yao, what about you? Come, I'll help you put it in your pants." Yushu took out another sanitary napkin and said to Meng Yao, "Me." "Me too?" Meng Yao said, feeling disgusted as she looked at the sanitary napkin that was covered in ink. "Oh, Yao Yao, if you don't want to take a shower, just bear with it for a while. We can always go home and take a shower." Yushu didn't really care. Meng Yao could only acquiesce to Yushu's words. It felt weird, but Meng Yao had to admit that Yushu's idea wasn't bad after everything was done. Yushu closed her bag and hid the fountain water. Done! Although Yushu's idea prevented the two from being violated by Zhan Yingjun, Meng Yao felt sad when she thought of Faubert. "Shu, it's our fault for hurting Faubert. If we didn't want to mess with Zhan Yingjun, this wouldn't have happened. I think that Shield Bro will have a way." Yushu trusted Lin Yi. "You really trust him?" Meng Yao also hoped that Lin Yi would save Faubert first. It'd be best if he didn't come to save her and Shu. From Zhan Yingjun's tone, he seemed to be prepared. If Lin Yi came, it'd be dangerous. "Oh, it's all right." Yushu nodded. "Yao Yao, don't you trust Shield Bro? He's saved us so many times already." "I don't know." Meng Yao shook her head. She was a little down because of Faubert. As they talked, Zhan Yingjun returned to the cave. "Hey, are you two done peeing?" "Dilly-dallying. You really have a lot of things to do." "Oh, I'm done. Is there anything else?" Yushu asked. "What is it?" "Of course it's us." Zhan Yingjun chuckled, and a trace of desire flashed across his eyes. "Ah, I don't think you can do it today," Yushu said regretfully. "Can't do it? You think I can't do it? If I say I can, then I must." Zhan Yingjun was amused by Yushu's words. She was already in his hands, and she was still saying such childish words. No, I mean, we're here for that, Yushu said with a shrug. Doing that? Which one? Zhan Yingjun froze for a second and reacted immediately. He looked at Yushu in disbelief. Really? Are you lying to a ghost? But you're not a ghost. Yushu shook her head. If you don't believe me, look over there. There's our sanitary napkins. Chapter 882. Successful Deception. Jin Yingjun had a problem since he was young, and that was getting dizzy when he saw the blood. He quickly stood up, but he still couldn't believe that the two of them could do that together. How could there be such a coincidence? Zhan Yingjun didn't doubt the authenticity of the sanitary napkin on the ground because the light in the cave was dim and he couldn't see if it was blood or something else. All he thought was that it didn't make sense for the two of them to do it together. You two came together? Zhan Yingjun frowned as he looked at Yushu and Meng Yao. Yeah, actually we're Lin Yi's first and second wives, and we always do threesomes together. In order to ensure that we can do it for 25 days a month, we purposely mixed our periods with medicine, Yushu said shyly with a serious face. Huh. Zhan Yingjun froze. You're not *S? Of course not. Yushu looked at Zhan Yingjun in disdain. We're already 18 years old. How can we still be *S? Zhan Yingjun was confused by Yushu and didn't know if she was telling the truth or not. However, Meng Yao did say that if he touched them, Lin Yi would kill him. Could they really be Lin Yi's first and second wives? Wasn't Lin Yi a bodyguard? That's right, a master of medicine like Lin Yi would be treated like a VIP no matter where he went. Even Master Bing respected Yao Wang. So how could Lin Yi be willing to be a follower for two girls? Zhan Yingjun didn't believe that Lin Yi had nothing to do with them. Now it seemed like Yushu wasn't lying. You're not lying? Take off your pants, let me check. Zhan Yingjun would believe it if Meng Yao did it, but Yushu was too cunning and he didn't believe her. Okay, I'll show it to you. Turn around first, Yushu said to Zhan Yingjun. Don't play tricks. Take off your pants and let me see. Zhan Yingjun naturally wouldn't turn around, as he was afraid that Yushu would play tricks on him. Okay, I'll take it out for you to see. Yushu turned around and quickly took out something from her pants and passed it to Zhan Yingjun. Here. Zhan Yingjun was shocked when Yushu handed him something bloody. He subconsciously moved back and took a closer look. It was indeed a sanitary napkin with blood on it. He quickly waved his hand. Take it away! Take it away! He had a phobia for blood, and the sight of it made him dizzy. But now he believed Yushu's words. These two really did it. Yushu threw the bloody sanitary napkin to the side and waved her hand, scaring Zhan Yingjun into hiding again. Actually, if we didn't do it, we wouldn't mind being played with by you, as long as you don't tell Linny, Yushu said regretfully. But the day you chose isn't good. Why don't you wait a few days? We're in your hands anyway. It doesn't matter if you wait a few days. Fuck. So King, unlucky. How can it be read? Zhan Yingjun saw that he had no chance and ignored Yushu. He tied Yushu's hands and feet together while cursing and tied Meng Yao's hands and feet again. He instinctively rejected blood, so after tying the rope, he didn't want to stay here any longer. He stood up and walked out of the cave. However, as soon as he reached the entrance of the cave, Zhan Yingjun burst into laughter again. Wahahaha! It seems like even the heavens want me to be rich. Zhan Yingjun suddenly remembered that if he didn't touch Meng Yao and Yushu, didn't Pingzhan promise him another 50 million? Now that he calmed down and thought about it, 50 million to play with two girls and they weren't virgins? That was a huge loss for him. Money was the best. With 50 million, he could get any girl he wanted. Zhan Yingjun gave up on the idea of violating Meng Yao and Yushu and became more rational. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it wasn't worth it. Fortunately, these two girls were popular. Otherwise, he would have lost 50 million yuan just because of that moment of pleasure. Zhang Yingjun picked up his phone and dialed Peng Zhan's number again. Peng Zhan wanted to discuss a plan with Lin Yi after receiving the call. But Ling Shan's call came before he could even open his mouth. The kidnappers asked for 200 million. Peng Zhan said after Ling Shan and Lin Yi hung up. The kidnappers asked for 200 million, then give it to him. I'm just afraid that he won't be able to spend it even if he takes it, Lin Yi said indifferently. I also think so. As long as Yao Yao and Shu are safe and sound, no matter how much money it is, I will give it to him. Peng Zhan sighed. But it sounds like a kidnapper. He has other intentions towards Yao Yao and Shu. This was what he was most worried about. He hoped that the two girls could buy as much time as they could and wait for him to save them. That Shu girl was smart. She should be able to think of a way to deal with this situation. As the two were talking, Peng Zhan's phone rang again. Peng Zhan looked at the caller ID with a serious expression. It was still the same number with a bunch of zeros. He picked it up seriously. Hello? Mr. Chu, after careful consideration, I've decided to accept your suggestion. 250 million. I won't hurt your daughter and her best friend. What do you think? Zhang Yingjun was glad that he didn't have sex with Meng Yao and Yu Shu. If he did, he would lose the money. Okay, I agree. 250 million it is. Peng Zhan was surprised and happy after hearing Zhang Yingjun's words. He had already prepared for the worst and didn't expect the kidnappers to agree to his suggestion. It seemed like the kidnappers valued money more than anything else. Peng Zhan didn't know that Yu Shu caused a strange incident that made Zhang Yingjun give up. Great, but I don't want you to give it to me later. I want you to give me 250 million together. Is that okay? Although Zhang Yingjun knew that Peng Zhan had a good reputation, that was only for business partners. He was playing the role of a kidnapper. How could he talk about his reputation with a kidnapper? Chapter 883. Chapter 0882. Borrowing money from Lin Yi. With that thought, Peng Zhan nodded. Okay, I promise you. But how can I give you the money? After I give it to you, will you let my daughter and Shu go immediately? I'll give you an account, and you can transfer the money there. After I check the account, I'll give you an address. Tell the man named Lin Yi to pick up your daughter and her best friend. Remember, he can only come alone. If there are too many people, we will kill the hostages, Zhang Yingjun said. Of course, I believe that Mr. Chu is a smart man and won't call the police. The masters around me can kill Faubert, so naturally they can also kill your family silently. Although Peng Zhan was suspicious why Zhang Yingjun asked Lin Yi to pick up the hostages, he only had Lin Yi by his side. If Lin Yi didn't go, who else could he ask? Okay, I won't call the police. I hope you will keep your promise, Peng Zhan said. Don't worry, we kidnappers have our own rules. Just look at our professionalism, and you should believe that we are professionals, Zhang Yingjun said. The account number is XXXXX. Zhang Yingjun told him the account number, and after Peng Zhan wrote it down, he confirmed it with him before hanging up. After the threat, Zhang Yingjun believed that Peng Zhan wouldn't dare to call the police. With Ma Zhu's strength, Peng Zhan would definitely be afraid that he would take revenge on him. Peng Zhan was now an influential figure in Peng Zhan Industries, so no one dared to say anything when Peng Zhan mobilized the company's cash flow. However, the total cash flow was only 210 million. Of course, this was at the expense of the company's future operations. Peng Zhan Industries wouldn't have a single cent of liquid funds left once the 210 million was taken out. It would be a fatal blow to Peng Zhan Industries, but Peng Zhan didn't care about that. He was worried about his daughter's safety. Even if he had to resign from his position as chairman and give his shares to the shareholders as compensation, he didn't mind. Lin Yi didn't know much about business operations, but he didn't know what would happen if a company ran out of liquid funds. Uncle Chu, let me help you. Lin Yi said when Pingzhan was about to withdraw all of the company's funds. You. Pingzhan was slightly taken aback. He didn't know that Lin Yi and Fatty Lai had started a company, and Meng Yao didn't tell him either. He only thought that Lin Yi and Fatty Lai had a good relationship, but he didn't know that Lin Yi played a role in Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Lin Yi took out his phone and called Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai, how much cash do you have? Boss? Cash? Why are you suddenly asking this? What's wrong? What happened? Fatty Lai asked. It's an emergency, Lin Yi said. Cash! We can only get 30 to 40 million at most. All the money from the auction was used to buy the production line and build the factory. Seeing Lin Yi's pill of life extension and toxin cleansing become a hot item in the auction, and seeing his father turn from an old man on the verge of death into a healthy man, Lu Tianyi felt the importance of building a good relationship with Lin Yi. That was why he envied Lai Changyi. This Fatty Lai was just a small businessman, and his business wasn't that big. But now he had become Lin Yi's follower. He was so amazing, so amazing. Before, Lu Tianyi was polite when he spoke to Fatty Lai, but he still took the lead. But now the two of them had swapped positions, and Lu Tianyi and Fatty Lai were talking very carefully. It couldn't be helped. His boss was amazing. Chapter 884. A changed mind. So, Lu Tianyi knew that if he wanted to keep in touch with Lin Yi, he couldn't cut off contact with Fatty Lai, especially when Fatty Lai wasn't that powerful yet. In a few years, House Lai might even become the #1 noble house. However, Lu Tianyi didn't expect Lin Yi to call him. Lu Tianyi took a deep breath and picked up the phone carefully. Hello, I'm Lu Tianyi. Mr. Lu? I'm Lin Yi. Can you lend me 100 million? Lin Yi didn't waste time and said directly, if you don't return it, I'll return you a pill or treat your family for free. Sure, it's just 100 million. Miracle Dr. Lin, if you want to use it, just take it. What do you mean by not returning it? Isn't it too vulgar to mention that? Lu Tianyi was just worrying about how to get closer to Lin Yi, and now Lin Yi called him to borrow money. Lu Tianyi was so happy that he could die. How could he not agree? As for whether Lin Yi would return the money or not, that was secondary. Building a good relationship with Lin Yi was the most important goal. Thank you in advance. I'll text you an account number and you can transfer it to me, Lin Yi said. Okay, no problem. Lu Tianyi agreed quickly. These days, there weren't many people who begged others to borrow money, but Lu Tianyi was definitely one of them. He didn't even want Lin Yi to return the money. Lin Yi didn't say anything and hung up. Pingzhan's eyes widened as he looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. When Lin Yi and Fatty Lai were on the phone, he heard it from the side. When he heard that Lin Yi wanted Lu Tianyi's number, he thought he heard it wrong. Who was Lu Tianyi? The young master of Yanjing's noble house. Lin Yi wanted to borrow money from him? Did he hear it wrong? However, after Lin Yi called Lu Tianyi, Pingzhan realized that what he heard was the truth. Lin Yi really did borrow 100 million from Lu Tianyi, and it didn't take any effort or persuasion at all. The guy seemed to be very happy to lend the money to Lin Yi. Uncle Chu, I borrowed 100 million from Lu Tianyi first. Don't use all of the company's liquid funds. It'll affect the company's operations, Lin Yi said with a smile as he looked at the shocked Pingzhan. Yanjing's house lose Lu Tianyi? Pingzhan still couldn't believe it. That's him, Lin Yi nodded. Give me the account number. I'll have him transfer the money over. Pingzhan took in a deep breath. He didn't think that Lin Yi would have been in Songshan for such a long time already. It was no wonder why he didn't put House Yu in his eyes back then, even daring to kill House Yu's men. As it turned out, Lin Yi borrowed 100 million from another noble house's young master in such a calm and unquestionable tone, and the guy was happy to lend it to him. With Lu Tianyi's 100 million, Pingzhan easily transferred the remaining 150 million to the kidnapper's account number. About 10 minutes later, the kidnapper called again. It was still the same number that was full of zeros. Pingzhan picked up the phone. Hello? Mr. Chu, you have a good reputation. The ransom is in so quickly. Zhen Yingjun was a little excited. He didn't know that being a kidnapper had such a bright future. He got 250 million just like that. Even if his father worked hard as a pirate, he wouldn't be able to get that much money in a year. If he kidnapped more people in the future, wouldn't he have an endless amount of money? When can I see Yao Rao and Shu? Pingzhan sighed in relief when he heard that the kidnapper didn't intend to go back on his words. Since Mr. Chu is so straightforward, how can I disappoint you? I'll tell you the address, and you can tell Lin Yi to pick them up, Zhen Yingjun said. But I hope Mr. Chu remembers my words. Don't call the police, or you'll have to bear the consequences. No problem. I just hope that my daughter and Shu are safe, Pingzhan said solemnly. South Mirror Mountain. There are 2 cars at the foot of the mountain, a Mercedes-Benz 600 and a Toyota Previa. Just get someone to follow the road in front of the 2 cars, Zhen Yingjun said. Okay, I'll remember it. Pingzhan knew about South Mirror Mountain, but he didn't expect the kidnapper to bring his daughter to such a desolate place. It wouldn't be easy to find them with just the police force. Zhen Yingjun didn't say anything else and hung up the phone. He was waiting for Lin Yi to come and give Lin Yi a fatal blow, making him stay in South Mirror Mountain forever. He got the money, but the hatred between Zhen Yingjun and Lin Yi hadn't been resolved yet. How much did this guy make him suffer? He must make him pay back 10 times, 100 times. South Mirror Mountain. Lin Yi, they specifically asked you to bring Yao Yao and Shu back. Pingzhan hesitated and said to Lin Yi, I feel like they're plotting something. Otherwise, why didn't they just release Yao Yao and Shu directly? Why did they ask you to go? Maybe they want to deal with me. Lin Yi said indifferently, if I'm not wrong, I already know who did this. Who? Pingzhan froze and asked. Zhen Yingjun. Lin Yi said, it can't be House Yu. From what I can see, it can only be House Zhen. House Zhen? House Zhen of Donghai? Jin Dazhou? Since when did you guys offend someone like that? Pingzhan paused. He didn't have any interactions with Jin Dazhou, let alone any grudges. Lin Yi briefly told Pingzhan about what happened in the billiard room that day and how Zhen Yingjun lusted after Meng Yao and Yushu, as well as how Zhen Yingjun punished him after they left. Pingzhan shook his head and smiled bitterly. He didn't blame Lin Yi because, strictly speaking, it was Yushu's fault and it had nothing to do with Lin Yi. Lin Yi, you're saying that other than money, they also want to deal with you? Pingzhan thought for a while and said seriously, that should be the case. Although Shu asked me to do it, I'm the one who carried it out. Zhen Yingjun might hate me to the core. That master is probably waiting for me on the mountain. Lin Yi shrugged. It's far from the city. No one will notice if something happens there. It's a good place to kill. Chapter 885. Moving separately, this was obviously a trap. Since they saw through it, how could they go in? Uncle Chu, you're thinking the wrong way. I mean, there's no one there. It's perfect for me to kill them. Lin Yi smiled and said casually, Oh, you're confident? Pingzhan paused after hearing Lin Yi's words. Yes. Lin Yi nodded and said confidently. In fact, he didn't. However, he couldn't ignore Meng Yao and Yushu. He only said that to reassure Pingzhan. Lin Yi could only take it one step at a time. There was no one in Songshan who could help him, and the enemy had masters. Lin Yi could only face them alone. That's good. Pingzhan didn't suspect anything. Seeing Lin Yi's confidence, he finally relaxed. I was worried that you wouldn't be able to handle it. I'm relieved now. Time is of the essence. Uncle Chu, I'll leave first. Lin Yi didn't say much and walked towards the door. Woof woof. General Weiwu barked twice behind Lin Yi. Lin Yi's footsteps paused for a moment. He smiled and waved at General Weiwu. Come with me. Wasn't this a ready-made helper? Who would have thought that a dog was a golden-class dog? It was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Even if Lin Yi brought a dog to Nanjingzi Mountain, he didn't go against Zhen Ingjuan's suggestion. Only Lin Yi could go alone, because the other person wasn't a human but a dog. General Weiwu wagged its tail excitedly and followed Lin Yi. Pingzhan naturally didn't know that General Weiwu had turned into a golden-class dog. He thought that Lin Yi brought General Weiwu with him to make it easier for him to find Meng Yao. Just like last time at Mount Shuangyan, Lin Yi brought General Weiwu with him to track Meng Yao's scent. Lin Yi got on Yushu's yellow beetle and set the GPS to Nanjingzi Mountain. The man and dog made their way there. On Lingshan's side, with Lin Yi's rejection, she naturally couldn't do anything. The other party was obviously a master, and she didn't know if she'd be helping or causing trouble. Since Lin Yi said he didn't need her, she could only wait anxiously in the police station. Fortunately, Pingzhan hadn't pressured the police through anyone, and there was no news of him at all after he returned. South Mirror Z Mountain. This was the first time Lin Yi came to this place. He didn't know there was such a mountain near Songshan. The foot of the mountain was very desolate. There were no houses and no buildings. There were only some fire prevention slogans and warning signs that it was dangerous to go up the mountain. Not far from the mountain road, 2 cars stopped. It was the 2 cars that Zhan Ingjun mentioned. Lin Yi got off the car and patted General Weiwu's head. We'll split up later and act according to the situation, understand? After General Weiwu leveled up, it understood human nature better. It nodded, but Lin Yi wasn't sure if it really understood. Before it leveled up, Lin Yi already felt that this dog wasn't simple. It wasn't a normal dog, and now he felt that this dog's IQ was even higher than before. The steep mountain road was nothing to Lin Yi, let alone General Weiwu. It didn't even walk on the mountain road. Instead, it jumped around the trees and rocks on the side of the road and disappeared. Quickly, Lin Yi arrived at the top of the mountain and saw a few people in the open space at the top of the mountain. One of them was Zhen Ingjun. Beside him was a middle-aged man in a white robe. He was tall and strong like a pillar. Behind Zhen Ingjun were 2 bodyguards in black. On the left and right of the bodyguards were Meng Yao and Yushu. Both of their hands and feet were tied up. However, Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the 2 of them weren't hurt. Lin Yi, you're finally here. Wahahaha. Zhen Ingjun wasn't an idiot. He had men lying in ambush at the foot of the mountain to see if Lin Yi came alone. He was afraid that Lin Yi would bring a team of police with him. That would be troublesome. Although Zhen Ingjun was arrogant and had masters around him, he couldn't let his men have a gunfight with the police, could he? Wasn't that asking for death? If that happened, he would have to give up on killing Lin Yi and kill Meng Yao and Yushu to vent his anger. At the back of the mountain, Zhen Ingjun had already prepared a helicopter. Even if the police surrounded the mountain, he could still escape. The police wouldn't think that he had a helicopter as a backup. By the time the police called for backup, he would be long gone. Zhan Dazhou's men were in the pirate business. How could they not have a helicopter as an escape tool? Zhen Ingjun had all the necessary equipment, and that was the reason why he dared to wait for Lin Yi here. However, when Zhen Ingjun received a call from his men at the foot of the mountain, he heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like he was too careful. Lin Yi came alone without any backup or police. As for the dog beside Lin Yi, Zhen Ingjun automatically filtered it out. It was just a dog. What was there to worry about? It's really you, Zhen Ingjun. Lin Yi shrugged. It seemed like he was right. Things weren't as simple as he thought. His coming here was probably part of Zhen Ingjun's plan. Therefore, Lin Yi entered a state of alertness. Oh, you're pretty smart. You guessed it was me? Zhen Injun paused for a moment before laughing out loud. Ha 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 ha. Since you guessed it was me, how dare you come alone? Are you stupid? Are you stupid? You're really stupid. It was no wonder that Zhen Injun was so happy. From his point of view, Lin Yi was an idiot. Since he guessed that he kidnapped Meng Yao and Yushu, he still dared to come and pick up the hostages, especially alone. If he wasn't an idiot, then he was too arrogant. Are you saying that I'm smart or stupid? Are you contradicting yourself? Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. Are you stupid, or am I stupid? Meng Yao and Yushu were both here. Lin Yi made up his mind and started to think of a plan. Ever since he came to the top of the mountain, the jade had been warning him non-stop. This meant that the mountain was full of danger, and Lin Yi didn't know where the danger was. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.